you very much for having me. I think as of now, again, this Hormuz has been a key rivalry point. I think if this blockade is removed, or there are concessions by both sides by opening Hormuz, that will set a wonderful stage. And this has happened in before the first stage as well. At that time, Iranians, they linked the discussions and talks with the concessions in Lebanon. So they were asking for a complete ceasefire, and on the insistence of Pakistani Field Marshal, I think United States of America, they scrambled and they quickly got that through. Over here, I think if this blockade by United States of America and again by Iran, if
we seem to have lost our line to Zaki Mahmood there, but I want to come back to you, Abdullah, because I want to get a sense.
What if you could bridge Asia's last high-growth frontier markets? Before it's fully priced in, Asia-Pacific Investment Partners. Over 20 years building real assets in Mongolia. Now raising up to $4 million through a senior secured term loan. Positioned at the top of the capital structure, backed by real estate and mining assets. Limited allocation. Request access to the full offering. Join us.
To de-link statements like that from the practicality that should be going ahead in the negotiating rooms?
Well, that's very difficult, bearing in mind that President Trump always picks the teams that's very, they have strong ties with him, like personalized type of teams he preferred to pick. That makes it very difficult in terms of having the knowledge to discuss all the technical details with the Iranians. And I think the Iranians already mentioned that previously, that the American team, they had a problem with technicality. So that's a big thing. That could, if the Iranians are smart, they could have a deal at the moment, because this deal at least will survive for a few years, maybe, till Trump exits the White House. But it will give them a better advantage in terms of frozen assets and other things. However, if we look at the deal, like in terms of deal talks between both parties, I think it's very difficult, because having no regional countries on table, this is one issue. And we know that the whole thing started with Israel kind of pushing the Americans to have this war in the first place. So to have the Israelis not really part of it in any way, maybe just gives a chance that maybe they don't like it. And if they don't like it, then they would push again for the Americans to reinitiate this war again and resume it. I think there are so many things we could put in the context when it comes to the Americans. First, there is the mid-May China-US talks. There is the World Cup in the US. There is the midterms elections. So President Trump, his brain is occupied with so many things. He wants to exit Iran because it wasn't actually as easy as Venezuela, to be honest. So now is the time to push for a deal. But the thing is, the dynamics around this deal, if you want to break a deal at the moment, it's hard. If you want to have a framework, then that is possible. But with President Trump accept such a thing? That's the question. I don't think so.
Zaki Mahmood in Islamabad, with regard to what your understanding is of the way that Pakistan is acting as mediator for these talks, essentially, I want to pick up on something that Abdullah was just talking about, because there is a very different negotiating style, isn't there? The Americans are going in there with that, they want a headline-grabbing, quick result to pretty much any deal that they're going to do. Whereas, of course, Iran has got a very different approach to this. They deal in the long term. How, as mediators, can Islamabad balance those two styles of negotiation in order to try to find some sort of common ground to move forward?
Yeah, I totally agree that this is a challenging environment, because these talks are taking place after maybe 47 years. So there is a huge animosity which is packed in these talks, behind these talks. It's a big challenge. But I personally feel that Iran also doesn't have much of a time, to be very honest. They have to do a lot of reconstruction though they are portraying that they have little more threshold for the pain, they can take little more war. And the United States of America, probably President Trump has reached to this conclusion that war hasn't brought him the true objectives they couldn't achieve. So that's why this off-ramp is being utilized. Pakistan is trying that because there are so many spoilers also. Pakistan is aware of those spoilers also, especially Israel. Pakistan understands that if it is these talks are prolonged, this gets into a protracted mode. This can be spoiled by any other spoiler. Larger feeling in this part of the world is that this war President Trump has been pushed into this war by Israel. And that's why they're not pursuing actually the true political objectives of United States of America, but objectives of Israel. So Pakistan is conscious of that also. They are trying.
All right. Hello, my name is Dr. Paul Cottrell, and we are live streaming on Rumble, YouTube, and my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Please help support the work that I do by sharing the links, asking your social media to follow me. You can follow me on YouTube, Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble, X, GETTR, Substack, TikTok, Patreon. There's lots of ways to watch my work. I also have archived audio versions of my podcast on Podomatic, Apple Podcast, and on my website under Broadcast Radio. Thank you for joining. I greatly appreciate it if you help support the free content that I create by purchasing the products that I have on my store, by sharing the links, asking your social media to follow me, and also please donate. You can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or Buy Me a Coffee, or be a paid member to my Patreon or Substack channel. That way I can continue to do all this content for free. I have thousands of videos for free. I tell you how to improve your health, but I also tell you how to trade the markets, all right, and not be a victim of the news. There's too many people in this world that keep on complaining about how the world is. Well, all you got to do is step out of the box, take a look at what's going on, and make decisions accordingly to improve your life and your family's life. So thank you for joining. I greatly appreciate it if you go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and help support the work that I do. All right, so we're about 8 minutes away from opening up for trading here in New York, and the futures market for the S&P 500 is up. It's at 7,162. Oil is trading at 86.92. What's the big question mark is, will the ceasefire end and further escalatory kinetic events take place, either by the United States and or Iran? So it does look like the ceasefire is going to end and that further escalation, but we're not seeing it in the markets. We're not seeing that knee-jerk reaction in equities or in oil. So there is such a thing as the traders out there are fatigued by the situation in the Middle East. And unless there is actually tankers being blown up or tankers not being able to go through the Strait of Hormuz, or the IRGC hits infrastructure within the GCC, we're probably going to be trading with some stability. So this is going to be, it'll be interesting to see if Trump does hit the bridges, what will happen to oil and the equity market. I suspect the equity market will go down a little bit, but not a whole lot. And I expect the oil market to go up, but not a whole lot. So right now, there is a barrier at about 90 for oil. There's a resistance level at about 90. And it's been hovering around it looks like the 68 position. It looks like the 68 retracement. So with that, the oil market, it's questionable if it's going to get into the 100 above range. Who knows? natural gas is kind of trending down. Yesterday it was at 2.7 and now it's back to 2.6. So it's at 2.672. It wants to go down because we're getting into the summer season, and usually natural gas is lower in the summer. So I suspect that if things are stable in the Middle East, we'll drift down to 2.5. If things are not stable, we'll stay at the 2.6, maybe go to 2.7 or 2.8. But I don't think we'll hit the 3 range for natural gas. So that's the big question mark. What's going to happen with the ceasefire? Supposedly it ends tomorrow. Actually, it ends tonight. But it looks like Trump gave an extended day for Wednesday. Is it going to be a taco trade where Trump always chickens out? Who knows? Who knows? But another big announcement in the news is Tim Cook is stepping down. That was announced yesterday after the markets closed. And I think it's about time that Tim Cook left. I think his guidance financially for Apple has been stellar, but in terms of new revolutionary products that people really gravitated to, I'm not so sure. I mean, he did have the watch, and it is a successful product, but do you really need it? There's a trend I'm noticing with men, they don't want to wear the watch. They want to wear old style watches, not, this smartwatch stuff. And I think that it's so ubiquitous that everyone has it. In terms of the phone, yeah, he managed upgrades, but nothing revolutionary. And in terms of the virtual reality headset, that was a flop. So I wouldn't say that Tim Cook was stellar in bringing new products to market, because he wasn't. He was able to put the company in a financial footing to be able to go to the next era for Apple. I believe Apple's now 50 years old now, or is turning 50. I think that's what it is. I think this year it's turning 50. But the question is, they're going to elevate a hardware guy to run Apple. And, I'm not sure if that is the right move. I would have preferred a design guy that was more holistic with the software and the hardware instead of just the hardware. Because I would think that a design guy coming out of the studio would be a little bit more aligned with the way Steve Jobs thought versus, let's say, Tim Cook. Tim Cook was an accountant. He was an operational accountant. That was his forte. And Apple does seem to be behind the AI systems. Now, Apple's modus operandi is always, well, wait until you see others come out with their products and then analyze it, take a look at what they did right or wrong, and then make it stellar. Okay, maybe AI is so new that it needs to go through a little bit of a beginning phase before Apple really gets involved. But in terms of Siri and the HomePod that they have, it's kind of rudimentary. It doesn't think very well. You would think that they would have upgraded Siri to plug into a LLM to respond a little bit more realistically, be a little bit more helpful in terms of asking questions. A lot of times, if you ask a question with Siri, it will state that it will send some sort of link to another device for further investigation, and all you want is a quick answer. So the HomePod is kind of a failure too. So I wouldn't say that Tim Cook financially did a very good job for Apple. put it on a very strong financial footing. But in terms of new products that were revolutionary, not so much. And I've never really been a big fan of Tim Cook. I thought that he was more of a bean counter operational guy and not so much a design guy. And you just could tell. I mean, I worked in a studio when I was in automotive. So, I mean, I know the ethos of it. And he wasn't one of them. He definitely was not one of them. So that's my take on it. But we'll, follow the breaking news. The markets have just opened up. And what we're going to do is take a look at the S&P 500. The S&P 500 is now trading at 7,121. VIX is at 19. The euro is trading at 117. Japanese yen's trading at 159. So the dollar is stable. Bitcoin has been moving a little bit higher. It's at 76,000. I'm a little surprised at that. So there seems to be a correlation. As things start to stabilize in the Middle East, it seems like Bitcoin is starting to drift up. Oil is trading just below 87. It's at 86.97. Natural gas is trading at 2.678. For the ones that have been paying attention to me, I've been watching UCO, which is a 3 times leverage long for oil. That's 39.8. That was trading as high as 72, not 72. It was trading as high as 43 and 42, not too long ago, before the big oil sell-off. So UCO, take a look at that. The inverse of it is SCO. Now, SCO, I believe, is trading at $8 a share. Let's take a look. $7.96. So those are the two things to watch out for if there's a big movement in oil or ETFs. Okay, well, the markets are stable. I still have a long-term year-end target for the S&P 500 at 7,400, which is the low ball projection. And I am also projecting 7,800 for the S&P 500 as the high-end range. If things stabilize with the Middle East and nothing else crazy happens like alien invasion or something, then most likely we will test 8,000. Question is, will we break it? So it's possible that we hit 8,000, but I still have year-end target for the S&P 500 at 7,800. If people have been paying attention to me and you bought into the market when it was selling off during the Iran war, you would have made money. And this is the reason why I keep on telling you that just pay attention to me, you'll make money. If you pay attention to me, you'll get healthy. All right. Those are the 2 things that all you got to do. You don't even have to think about it. All you got to do is just listen to me and do what I'm telling you to do, and you'll be fine. But if you want to, pretend you understand and know as much as I do about these subjects, you're not going to do as well. I mean, there's a knack that I have on this. So all you got to do is just listen, pay attention, and you'll do fine. It's that simple. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the great supplements that I offer. I have a protocol that I've been doing for a very long time. All right. And I've tweaked it over the decades and have been able to partner up with different vendors. And I've created a series of boxes, anti-aging boxes and longevity boxes that will help you to improve your health and target certain systems. So the main protocol is basically taking the multivitamin that I have and taking a probiotic. That's the foundation. And then the pillars on top of that foundation are the Max 35er cleanse to boost up your immune system, your innate immune system. C60s soak up free radicals. Turmeric, ashwagandha, and lignans to help with your cardiovascular health. And also by bringing down that inflammation, you're also helping with brain function and even joint health. And the Boomer Boost that will help to rev up your energy levels. So if you pay attention to that protocol that I just mentioned, the foundation and the pillars, what you're doing is you're targeting all of the different pressure points of aging. You're soaking up free radicals, you're bringing down inflammation, you're revving up your energy levels. And you have the basic building blocks to allow for your body to heal. You do this every day, you will get healthy, you'll have more energy, you'll have better BMI, you'll have better musculature, and you'll have more vitality. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the multivitamin that I have. It is easy to digest, should be taking it every day, and stack it with the probiotics that I have. I have the veggie cap version of the probiotics. And the powdered version of the probiotics. I prefer the powdered version because I take a lot of different powders for lunch. Mix it with collagen and the lignans and the boomer boost and the gladiator barley. So please go to my store, get the probiotics, get the multivitamin, and get healthy. That's the foundation. And then you'll add to it. And when you do that, you're going to notice that your endocrine system and your immune system are all getting into homeostasis. So please go to my store, use discount 5. I want you to save some money. I also want you to make money if you've been paying attention to me. And also, if you spend $100 or more on my store, you get a free gift until supplies last. Please help support the work that I do by going to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and getting the probiotics and the multivitamin. Okay. With that, what we're going to do is we're going to listen into CNBC. I can't hear CNBC. Why is that?
All sectors.
This is
from
Al Jazeera.
feedstock
Let me
for the
figure out what's going on
petrochemical
with CNBC.
industry, the price of fertilizer, food security, energy security in all the biggest economies in the world. So an ideal deal for the Gulf is an understanding, a global compact that the freedom of navigation in the form was the security.
But that could be a margin headwind as well. I just
And the
mentioned these
integrity
things.
of the energy infrastructure.
No, they had
matter
a
of
year, a
global
terrible
collective
year.
security.
Right.
If I mean, the stock got cut in half,
Very strange.
mounting a bit of a comeback. Say again?
Has been spared the impact of this disruption, even in countries
Little
with
audio
energy
issue with
exporters
CNBC.
like the US, which is seeing the price of diesel go up, the price of gasoline for motorists go up, utilities, groceries, and the US has elections coming up in midterm elections in November. So it's a political liability as well for the Trump administration.
One thing that
Well, I mean, I paid for one. I paid full boat for it, Repatha from Amgen. And, you know, that one, there's studies being done for that one everywhere.
Is that a cholesterol, anti-cholesterol?
Yes, but there are a lot of other things that it does. And it turns out there's no level, as Bob Bradway, CEO, would say, there's no level that's good level for cholesterol. I'm just saying some of these drugs they have indications that are far bigger than what we're buying them on.
Yep.
And I think Amgen's down. Yeah, someone put the wood to Amgen. Now,
they?
David, yeah.
Yes,
now,
sir.
Bill Brown at 3M. My dad used to work for 3M.
That was on my list here.
Now, the stock was down 5, and I'm going back and forth. I mean, Bill, it's a great number. I'm telling him it's a great number. And it was a great number. But there's guys who sell things because of, what is it, an algo, David? I mean, what is that?
Right.
What, they have some key word that says sell?
Yep.
Because the quarter was great. No, that's not even, well, look, volatile environment. Of course, it's a volatile environment, but they had great growth. They had great growth. That's what I'm looking for is growth.
All right, what we're going to do is we're going to go to a different.
You're just getting ahead of me, Jim. I was about to look where the file is open. Look, right.
I'm going to go to want to take a look at this. Fox News came out with something, Iran's new chief tied to death to America ideology. I was listening to that.
But travel admin off my plate.
Hi, I'm Ellie, and I'm the People Operations Specialist at Center.
Fox News alert, the clock ticks on a deal with Iran. President Trump says if a critical question in all of this is who is really in charge of Iran? The Institute for the Study of War reports that an IRGC commander, Major General Ahmad Vahidi, and his inner circle may now hold the real control over both Iran's military response and the negotiations. So who is he? He is a senior-most IRGC commander. He's the former commander of the Quds Force. That's an elite secretive branch of the IRGC. He's a former both defense and interior minister, and he's known for hardline views on domestic and foreign policy. There's an Interpol red notice out for him for bombing a Jewish community center in Argentina, and he's under sanctions from the US, Canada, and the EU. Former CIA case officer and senior fellow at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, Rule Margaret joins me now. Rule, thanks for being with us here today. So tell me a little bit more about this man, Ahmad Vahidi.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say that you would describe him as a hardliner. I don't know if he's really more hardline than, say, Mohammed Baqir Ghalibaf, the Speaker of Parliament, the individual who led the negotiations in Islamabad before and may lead them again. He's just not, he's far less colorful. He is a creature of the Guard Corps. He's known for being fairly cold-hearted. You know, he survived the Iran-Iraq War. That probably is the defining moment in his life and the way you should understand him. So he is not one to give ground.
Tell me the relationship between the IRGC, presumably now under his command, the military response of Iran, and the political establishment of Iran, whatever's left of the mullahs and those that lead their parliament.
That's an excellent question, and it's difficult to answer that one accurately, I think, because the information we have of what's going on inside of Iran is somewhat sparse. So it's natural that in a state of war, the Revolutionary Guard Corps, the senior commanders are going to become the dominant voices inside of Iran. Whether that's, you know, the case after 6 months after the war is over, I don't know. But, you know, he's a very important player. I don't think he has ultimate authority. I think still there's a consensual leadership in the country. He has to take into consideration other members of the Guard Corps and also other members of the clerical establishment and the civilian elite. But, you know, he's a tough individual. And like I said before, I would expect him to you know, be quite willing to continue the fight.
Rule, if you were watching just a few moments ago, we had Lieutenant Colonel Scott Mann on, and his parting words to me were essentially, I hope everyone is diligent about what is happening here at home, the threats that we might face here in America. There is a story out today of a woman in California that's been arrested at LAX. She's accused of selling weapons for Iran. Her name is Shamim Mafi. She's an Iranian national. She's a permanent resident, lawful, since 2016, came under President Barack Obama. She's accused of brokering deals for the sale of drones, bombs, bomb fuses, millions of rounds of ammunition between the Iranians and the Sudanese armed forces. This, of course, is not the same thing as domestic terrorism, but it does highlight the type of people that are in this country, sometimes lawfully, sometimes illegally, that have allegiances somewhere other than the United States. This story, is this an illustration of a problem that we have here on American soil?
Well, I mean, we haven't had very good export controls. That's gotten a lot better. I mean, when cameras first got into the Iranian centrifuge cascades, we discovered that many of their most essential machinery was actually manufactured in Boston. So, you know, the Iranians have been experts at developing, dual use import networks. That continues. They've been under sanctions for quite some time. Now, on the suggestion of whether they may have, cells, black operations in the United States, I remain somewhat skeptical. I think we would have already seen them, and I think there has been a real degradation in the two primary intelligence services in Iran, the ministry, and also in the Revolutionary Guard Corps, and their overseas operations in the West. That doesn't mean they're not lethal, but I think they don't have the personnel that they once did. And they've also probably lost a great deal of Hezbollah support. So it's still a threat, but I suspect the FBI isn't paralyzed by that threat.
So just to be clear, you said that their capabilities have been degraded, but you also suggest that if they had those capabilities, you think they would have already deployed them. They would have done an attack on American soil if they had the capability to have that attack.
Yeah, I think they probably would have by now. I think they would have needed it. It would have made them happy to do it, particularly after the supreme leader died, if not before, actually. So, running overseas networks is much harder than it is in the spy books. And they have a great deal of difficulty now moving people, particularly into the United States. So you'd have to recruit people that are already here. It's a challenging environment for them. And they really they've operated better in Europe. They operate much better in the Middle East and Asia. But, you have to watch it. But they're certainly not in the league that they might have been, say, 30 years ago.
All right. Well, thank you for being with us here today, Raoul Mark Garrett.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube.
All right. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the turmeric. Turmeric will help to soak up free radicals and bring down inflammation. Lignans soaks up free radicals and brings down inflammation. It helps with your immune system and your endocrine system. And turmeric. Turmeric will help to control your cortisol levels and your blood glucose levels, boost up that immune system, and help bring down inflammation. Now, if you stack this together, take the ashwagandha root, take the lignans, and the turmeric together, all right? It's a very powerful stack to help with your cardiovascular health. Why? Because what it's doing is it's bringing down that inflammation and soaking up free radicals. And when you're doing that, you're reducing the concentration of oxidized LDL, so you have less plaque formation. And over time, stacking with some other stuff like C60, vitamin D3, K2, right? When you do that on a regular basis, and nattokinase and omega-3, you can actually slowly reduce the buildup of plaque in your vascular system. You can actually bring down, let's say, a 50% blockage in your carotid, or 65% blockage in carotid, and bring it down to 15 or 20% blockage. But it takes time. And it takes diet, exercise, and the proper supplementation. So, but the point here I'm making is that if you stack this together, you're supercharging the effects, the synergistic effects, and it's allowing you to help improve your cardiovascular health, improve your immune system, improve your endocrine system. And with better blood flow, you're also improving your brain function. My father passed away from ischemic dementia. Another term for it is vascular dementia. It's a terrible way to die. It's a slow process, actually. It's faster than normal Alzheimer's, but for him, it was about a 5-year arc before he passed. It's a terrible way to die, all right? And you don't want that. So the best thing you can do is improve your cardiovascular health. Super important. Proper diet and exercise, proper supplementation. You pay attention to me, and I've been saying this on every damn video. If you pay attention to me, you will not have the problem. All you got to do is just listen. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the ashwagandha root, the turmeric, and the lignans, and you'll be able to help with improving your health and improving your cardiovascular system.
Space 44 super agents, the next thing you can't live without. No setup. Just say hello.
All right, according to reports, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard is now consolidating power inside of Iran. In other words, the hardline radicals who have terrorized the world for decades are likely running the show. The guys with guns, not the guys in the suits that'll be in Pakistan. Here with more. Fox News strategic analyst, our friend General Jack Keane is with us. General, great to have you. If we were going to be very blunt and very, very honest, General, the easier path for the president would be to wipe them out, obliterate them, hit all those targets. But the reality is the president really deep down does not want to do that to the Iranian people. I applaud him for that. And he's going the extra mile. However, when there's a report out tonight, the Iranian, our parliamentary speaker, saying that they have new cards to play against the U.S. You have Iran's new IRGC chief, one of the hardliners from days gone by, now in charge of the guns. I'm less optimistic than I was over the weekend.
Yeah, sure. Well, you have cause to be, Sean, to be frank. I think what we're witnessing right before our eyes is a power struggle inside of Iran. And yes, Galibov, while he was a general in the IRGC at one point, right along with Vahidi, who is now the head general in the IRGC, Galibov does represent the political side of it because he's the head speaker in the parliament. And I think they are really at odds. We have talked to Galibov in the past, and so we know for a fact that he is willing to make some compromises on the deal. In other words, some concessions to the United States. It's likely, we don't know for a fact, but Vahidi disagrees with all of that. And this power struggle is going on, and what will be the resolution of it? There's a couple of paths here. One, take President Trump serious that if you don't come to the negotiating table and the ceasefire ends, by the way, it's Wednesday, not Tuesday it ends, and if it ends on Wednesday and he promises to go back to full combat operations, but so our audience understands, we have twice the capability on the U.S. side in the theater now than when we started the war. We have never given up bringing in additional assets to assist with the execution of our wartime objectives. The Israelis, who had some ammunition shortages, have full magazine depth now. So if we go back to combat operations, they are going to be absolutely full throttle and considerably more dramatic than anything the Iranians have experienced, to include all the targets the president is talking about, and then some. But Vahidi, listen, hardliners here. Vahidi has a couple of choices here. One, okay, work it out with Galibov, and let's not test the president. Let's go to the negotiations, but put some strict controls on Galibov in those negotiations. Or, and they're capable of this, Sean, test the president and accept going back to combat operations, because in the end, where they are, they believe that the president will not go completely to the end of it. The pressure on him politically and economically will force him to end it prematurely, and they'll still be standing, and they'll have leverage as a result of it. And no negotiations taking place at all is what he is possibly thinking. And I'm trying to put my head inside a bona fide hardliner who was the guy that was in charge of the Quds Force, and guess who he gave that job over to? Qasem Soleimani. So this is the ilk of what we're dealing with here. I just wanted our viewers to understand some of the thought process that may be going on here, and even the extreme that I'm mentioning, and why wouldn't they accept what's plausible and also reasonable? Well, because this is the Iranians, and we got long time history with how unreasonable they absolutely are, and they don't care about their people. They care about what? Personal survival, the regime surviving. That is it. And they don't care about what's best for their people. And if we're going to pound Iran, and we would, to seriously force an economic collapse, that's what would be on the horizon. It would be less about their weapons and more about their future, for sure, here in terms of their viability economically. in Vahedi's mind, if he survives that, he wins. Now, that is diabolical thinking for sure, but that is part of the rationale. We have been dealing with these people for a long time, Sean.
After 14 bunker buster bombs, that war ended in 12 days. That was phase one, Midnight Hammer. I'm trying to, all that President Trump has done here and all the damage he has inflicted upon them, how they could doubt in any way, shape, manner, or form his resolve to do it the hard way if he has to. And I want your reaction to that. And what about this warning about we have new cards to play? I take that as typical quintessential propaganda and bluster. Your thoughts?
It was the stock market that started history's greatest wave of wealth creation.
Yeah, well, we know our president, and you would think the Iranians by now would know him as well. He has a tendency to follow through here, and that's the reality of it. So he's promising something that be much more significant and dramatic impact on them than what we have been doing to date. And I think he will absolutely deliver on that. He's also making a point, and certainly we understand this, that in our negotiations, while he's willing to talk, he's not going to put up with a bad deal. That is a fact, because he understands and knows what a bad deal looked like. He walked away from one, as we all know, in 2018, 3 years into Obama's bad deal. So are they making assessments of the president? Of course they are. But they also, I think, where Vahedi's coming from, he believes there's significant pressure on the president. And it may be worth his while to try to accept whatever the president wants to give him. I think that is absolutely reckless thinking, and he's not being rational. But I'm just trying to paint a picture here of what can be going on. Hopefully, the best answer for the Iranians would be is whatever this debate is about, resolve it and get some negotiators in to sit down at the table with our negotiators and see if something can be worked out here. And certainly the United States has huge leverage here. The fact we can't dismiss the major leverage we have. In the first negotiations, we had the threat of going back to combat operations for sure. In the second negotiations, which we're about to take, the number one leverage we have is we have shut down all of Iranian exports, oil and everything else they export. And the reality of that is that's 80% of their revenue. That is huge leverage in of itself. The second piece of leverage we have, Sean, is what I mentioned, full throttle combat operations. So we are going into these negotiations holding a lot of cards in our hands, and actually a stronger hand than we had in the last negotiations. President Trump knows that. Our negotiators know that. Galibov certainly understands that. I think Vahedi probably understands it as well, the head of the IRGC. It remains to be seen what his reaction is going to be to all of this. I think we'll know within 12 to 20 hours for sure.
One thing I would love to see, the Israelis somehow arms get in the hands of the people. Vahedi and others I don't think would survive. 180% inflation rate. Their currency is now worthless, on top of the fact that they have half their workforce not working. This will be devastating. Hopefully the Iranian people will then wake up. That becomes their moment of truth too. General, as always, we appreciate you being with us.
I think it's becoming exponentially higher probability that the United States is going to be hitting Iran this week. But you're not seeing it in the markets. Oil is still stable, $86.79, and the S&P 500 is trading at 7,131. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the Myotrol. Myotrol will help with the gene expression to build muscle and maintain muscle. This is super important if you're 40 years of age or older. If you're male or female, do some resistance training. This has polyphenols, flavonoids, and lignans to help with the gene expression to build muscle and maintain muscle. It'll also help the health of your mitochondria. When you build muscle, you'll have better bone structure. In addition, by building muscle, you're going to also have higher concentrations of myokines and higher concentrations of BDNF, which are neuroprotective. So in essence, by building muscle, you're actually improving your brain function. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Myotrol. In addition, by building musculature, especially in the legs, in the calves, you're allowing for better venous return flow to your heart. So you have better cardiovascular fitness too. This is the reason why when you work out, don't do too much cardio. You want to be 65% actually resistance training, not too heavy weights, but 65% of your workout should be resistance training, 35% should be cardio. A lot of people out there think, oh, you're going to do 90% cardio. Wrong. That's the wrong way to do it. It's the totally wrong way to do it. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the Myotrol. If you spend $100 or more, you get a free gift until supplies last. Click the link in the description of this video and all my videos. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. All right. The Senate confirmation hearing for Kevin Warsh is about to start, but I don't think we're going to follow that today. We might, just depends if there's anything breaking from that. I want to take a look at, want to listen to Victor Hansen, what he published 17 hours ago.
Hello, this is Victor Davis Hansen for the Daily Signal. We're now beginning the 7th week of military operations against Iran. They're in a lull now during a negotiation, but the war continues. And if you look at Iran, it's a very strange situation because its command and control have been decapitated. Its military has been, I guess you'd call it inert. There is no air force. There's only PT boats left of its navy. Its army is of no use since this is an air war. Its nuclear military industrial complex has been bombed to smithereens. It's probably lost $500 billion and a half-century-long investment in military hardware and military industries at the expense of a very restive population. So what was it thinking? How did it get in itself in this place? What happened to it? Well, it had a expansive view of itself, an inflated view. Why? During the Obama administration, the Obama State Department and Obama himself sent these messages to Iran that maybe a Shia crescent, maybe Tehran, Damascus, Beirut, Gaza, people in Yemen might balance the Sunni Arabs of the Gulf with their money and the military power of the Jewish state of Israel. And Obama might step in from time to time to adjudicate this, I guess they call it creative tension. In other words, we said there was no moral difference between the Iranian bloc and its opponents, when there was, of course. But that gave the impression to Iran that we were afraid of them, or we would always be willing to make concessions. When Biden came in, the Iranians looked at him. The first thing he did was beg them to get back in the Iran deal. That inflated their egos even greater. Then he lifted sanctions and gave them $100 billion of new revenue. Meanwhile, the Iranians were looking at Russia going into Ukraine, and the United States had done nothing other than say our reaction will hinge on whether it's a minor or major invasion. And then came October 7th, and the Iranians had subsidized Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis and its proxies and clients in Syria and Iraq with the idea they had created a ring of fire around the Jewish state, and that after the October 7th massacres, which they denied they had foreknowledge, but they obviously strategically planned it with their clients, they thought that the United States wouldn't do anything, and they were pretty much right about that during the Biden administration. If even worse, we kind of distanced ourselves from Israel, and Iran knew that. And they felt that after October 7th, it would be such a traumatic experience for the Israeli government, they wouldn't do much. A lot of this was hinged on this pseudo reputation they had of being militarily indomitable, invincible, but there was never any proof that was true. In the Iran-Iraq War of 1980, they didn't do very well. Khomeini had to sue for peace, even though they had almost 1.5 times the population of Iraq. But they were the terror of the Middle East. People said, whatever you do, go into Afghanistan, go into Iraq, bomb it, don't get near Iran. They're crazy people. They have 93 million people. They're the second largest country in the Middle East by population. They're the second largest by area. They're just dangerous people. They're fanatic Shia, and they're willing to die for their cause. But if you actually looked at what they had done, they had achieved that reputation through surrogate use of terrorism, blowing up embassies, blowing up Marine barracks, assassinating individuals, sending weaponry to kill Americans in Afghanistan and Iraq. But they'd never really shown any impressive performance on the battlefield, either at sea, on the ground, or in the air. And then so they thought they could get away with October 7th. And that gave them even a greater inflated sense of self, because they kept telling us that between all of their proxies and their own arsenals, they might have 300,000 short and long range missiles, rockets, and drones, and they would collapse Israel under a sea of explosives. So they thought that even after October 7th, Israel wouldn't dare do anything to them because they had sophisticated Chinese and Russian air defenses. What they didn't count on were two things. October 7th changed the entire mentality of Israel. It was the greatest loss of Jewish life since the Holocaust. And they said, you cannot live like this. You cannot sustain a country like this. You can't have a sword of Damocles like this descending on you periodically. So we're going to have to go to the head of the snake. Hezbollah will deal with yes. Hamas we're going to deal with. The Houthis we will deal with. The people in Syria will deal with. But in one way or the other, they get money and weapons from Tehran. And we don't believe that they're indomitable. Not now, not after October 7th. And so in that 12-day war of last year, they destroyed the entire air defenses of Iran. And then they began taking out its military capability and its nuclear industry and infrastructure, and they called us in and asked us, and we were more than ready to comply because it was in our national interest. And in about 25 or 30 hours, we blew up their nuclear facilities. We thought that might be the end. They got the message, but of course they didn't. Their proxies began to shoot missiles again. They began to, from our intelligence, resume work on their nuclear facilities and nuclear proliferation trajectory. And so the United States entered negotiations again with them. And like all negotiations with the Iranians, they're drawn out. They're meant to delay while they rearm, or they enrich more uranium, or they sick their terrorist appurtenances on Israel or on individuals in the West as terrorist attacks. But they didn't again count on that Donald Trump doesn't care and Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't care. And so they resumed the war. And now we're speaking as we go into the 7th week. Dollars plus a day in lost revenue by the U.S. blockade. It has no cards to play. And all it can hope is that someone will call off the United States. And we'll talk about that in a later video. Who are those somethings or somebodies that might save Iran at the 11th hour? Because it will not be able to save itself if the United States decides to take out its bridges, take out its electrical generation capability, and force it back to the negotiating table, not to negotiate, but to submit to terms. Thank you very much. This is Victor Davis Hanson for the Daily Signal.
Well, I want to go over National Review. I'm actually impressed with some of the podcasts that are coming out of the National Review. I don't read the magazine, but I am a fan of William F. Buckley, who is the founder of the magazine and a conservative going after the Ivy League establishment, which I admire. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the magnesium and zinc. Magnesium and zinc will help to boost up your immune system. You should be taking it every day, but especially during the cold season. And magnesium is super important for your brain function. There are not enough people taking magnesium at high enough concentrations to improve brain function. Too many people are focused on, oh, just the recommended daily allowance is enough. It's not. It's not. So if you boost up your concentrations of magnesium, you're going to also improve your brain function and improve the efficacy of vitamin D3. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the magnesium and zinc. Take it every day. Super important for brain function and immune system. You'll be also getting synergistic benefits by taking vitamin C and magnesium. Vitamin C and magnesium will help with the skin, your immune system, and brain function. You can stack them together, magnesium and zinc and the vitamin C and magnesium together. It's a great stack. And you're helping with your skin, you're helping the efficacy of your vitamin D3, you're improving your brain function, you're helping your immune system. It's a great stack. So please go to my store, get the magnesium and zinc and vitamin C and magnesium. Also, like I said, if you follow my advice, you're going to slow down the aging process. Boomer Boost is a great supplement to take every day. Mix it with soft foods, filtered water, a smoothie, or even with just milk. But take it every day. This is a month's supply. And what this does is it helps your cardiovascular health, helps musculature, improves your cellular metabolism. You'll be able to control your A1C level. You're going to be able to have a leaner BMI. It'll help with brain function, help with the immune system and the endocrine system. And by taking it every day, you're going to slow down the aging process. It's going to soak up free radicals, bring down inflammation. It's a supplement that is a cornerstone to helping slow down the aging process. So please go to my store, get the Boomer Boost. It's part of my overall protocol. And that overall protocol to slowing down the aging process is the multivitamin and the probiotic as a foundation. The first pillar, max 35 or cleanse to help boost up the innate immune system. C60 soaks up free radicals, 1,000 times stronger than vitamin C. Turmeric, ashwagandha, and lignans bring down that inflammation. And Boomer Boost, rev up that cellular metabolism and your energy levels. If you pay attention to that protocol that I just mentioned, it's targeting all the major components of aging. And it'll help you to slow down the aging process, help you to reduce the methylation of your genes so you have a younger epigenetic profile. If you follow my advice, you will get healthy. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. If you spend $100 or more, you get a free gift until supplies last. And I want you to save some money. Make sure you use discount 5 and you get $5 off any order. But take my advice. And if you've been paying attention to me since the beginning of the Iran war, you would have made money in purchasing a broad index in US equities. Okay. So with that, let's listen into the National Review.
Ladies and gentlemen, Michigan Democrats over the weekend made clear what they think about malignant opposition to Israel. They love it.
For the University of Michigan, Board of Regents, y'all so excited, yes.
Amir Slaughter of National Review, and that was a joyous reaction when a guy named Amir Macklin won the nomination at the state Democratic Convention in Michigan to be a member of the Board of Regents of the University of Michigan. He'll now stand in a general election for that seat. Bit of a convoluted process for how they choose the Board of Regents of the University of Michigan out there, but that's not the issue. The main thing is that Macklin is a vicious, virulent Israel hater who's expressed anti-Semitic sentiments and expressed support for vicious anti-American and anti-Semitic terrorists. This guy, in short, is a poisonous toad. So what's going on with the Democratic Party? Well, it is becoming the Dearborn Democrats. Now, I don't mean that literally, although Macklin does practice law in Dearborn, Michigan. I mean it in the same sense that Gene Kirkpatrick called the Democrats the San Francisco Democrats in the 1980s, a city that encapsulates the reigning attitudes of the party. Back then in San Francisco, it was opposition to the Cold War, a blame America first attitude and cultural radicalism. Now in Dearborn, it is a thoroughgoing hostility to the Jewish state and the Jews themselves. So let's look a little bit more at Amir Macklin's body of work. This is from a Detroit News report. It notes that Macklin retweeted several posts from X in June and July 2025, praising Hezbollah, including posts referring to Hassan Nasrallah, the former leader of the terror group, as a martyr. And
this is something that I've been complaining about for a while. People need to pay attention in the United States that the Democratic Party that's aligning themselves with this Islamic fascism, they're eroding the constitutional freedoms that our founders enshrined in a document. In that document, the Constitution, the bedrock of those statements and civil liberties in that Constitution, the bedrock of it is the Enlightenment, which is a philosophical theory of life, liberty, and property. Now, it was rephrased by Benjamin Franklin, the pursuit of happiness. But the reality is that our Constitution, our system of government, our constitutional republic is heavily predicated on the Enlightenment. Now, Sharia is not part of the Enlightenment. Now, some people call it Sharia law. It's not what it's called. It's called just Sharia. So the bottom line is this. If you're not going to be focused on what is happening in the country, you are going to lose your constitutional freedoms. And it'll slowly erode, not at the federal level, but at the local level. What has happened in Michigan, in Dearborn and in Hamtramck, which is a township just outside of Detroit, has been taken over. And it is now a caliphate. It's run like a caliphate. They're trying to push out non-Muslims. Now, you don't believe me? Why don't you get in your car or get on a plane and go to Michigan and take a look at Dearborn and Hamtramck. And this is what is going to happen in other cities in the country. Now, the Democrats are aligning themselves because of suicidal empathy that will lead to constitutional freedoms to be eroded. We are seeing a takeover taking place in New York. Now, this may sound xenophobic, but the bottom line is this. Do you really think that it makes a lot of sense to have someone that is a communist that prefers Sharia, that eats on the floor and doesn't want to have normalities of Western culture? Do you think this is positive for New York City? You think the mayor is positive for a constitutional republic? I don't think so. But the thing is that the Democratic Party has aligned themselves to this, because the Democratic Party is run by left-wing constituency. Unfortunately, there's no middle ground anymore on the Republican or the Democratic side. Most of America wants to be middle ground, maybe a little left of center, maybe a little right of center, but not far right or far left. But the thing is, these parties are run by the far right and the far left. So polarized. But specifically to Michigan and to New York, there's this suicidal empathy that's taken place, and they have aligned themselves with communism. They have not aligned themselves with capitalism. They have not aligned themselves with constitutional republic. They have aligned themselves with communism and socialism. And socialism is just a downward, it's just a slippery slope to communism. So, what are we going to do as a country? Are we going to actually push back and prevent this from happening? Are we going to allow for this to metastasize across the country? Because in Sharia, in the Quran, there is code, a way of life that allows for the metastasizing to take place. It's built into their culture. They're not wanting to assimilate. The whole premise of the United States is about assimilation into this thing that we call America. This thing about being an American, whatever that means. It's not German, it's not British, it's not French. It's something unique because of the amalgamation and the assimilation that takes place. Maybe it takes a generation, maybe it takes 2 generations, but there is an assimilation. But when you don't have that assimilation, what you'll have is local governments that will actually start becoming enclaves for this religion, this religious belief, using Sharia law. Sharia, I shouldn't say, not Sharia law, just Sharia. So the bottom line is this: are we going to allow it to happen? Michigan is becoming a big problem with this, just like it's a big problem in London. And it's starting to become a problem in New York City. The heartbeat of the country. The place where 9/11 happened, where there was a terrorism that took place. Independent if you say there is an inside job or not, doesn't matter. It was tied to terrorism. It was tied to Islamic terrorism. And we're going to just let the doors open? Well, that sounds like a Trojan horse to me. Maybe we need to start paying attention to Homer. Maybe we need to start paying attention to the old classics of like what happens when you let a Trojan horse in. What happens to your culture? We're in a dangerous situation, and unfortunately, there are a lot of stupid people out there that are aligned with the Democratic Party that aren't aligning themselves to the Enlightenment. They're aligning themselves to Marxism. Marxism isn't the Enlightenment. Marxism takes away your property. And have some sort of technocracy. Wait, why do you want this? Why? It doesn't make any sense to want that. But it's happening. So ground zero in the country, when it comes to this Sharia issue and this enclave, and how it's starting to propagate throughout the society, ground zero is New York and Michigan, and specifically in Michigan, Dearborn and Hamtramck. New York, Dearborn, and Hamtramck. And if we don't stop this bullshit, it's going to metastasize. Now, how do we stop it? By making sure that people that are elected officials are aligned to the Enlightenment, that are aligned to our constitutional republic, and not Sharia.
Reposted something about another Hezbollah official killed in an Israeli airstrike, calling him a martyr on the road to Jerusalem. Now, Hezbollah obviously is not just some social welfare organization that tries to help the Palestinians or something like that. It's a no-kidding terror group devoted to the elimination of Israel, has carried out all sorts of bombings and kidnappings over the years and attacks, indiscriminate attacks on Israel. It allies with Iran as opposed to the United States. It has American blood on their hands. Even the Lebanese government doesn't like Hezbollah and wants them out of southern Lebanon. But Maklid, in these tweets, was endorsing Hezbollah figures. He since deleted them, but the original post told us more about what he really thinks. And by the way, it's not just Hezbollah. He's also into Soleimani. After Trump took out Soleimani, the infamous Iranian terror master, Maklid reposted something using the honorific Hajj before Soleimani's name, a sign of respect. Soleimani, of course, responsible for hundreds of deaths during the Iraq War. Did that give Maklid any pause? No, apparently not. And by the way, he is not very into the Jews. He reposted something from Candace Owens. Yes, it's that bad. He was reposting Candace Owens, saying of the Israelis, these are not our friends or allies. These are demons and they are enemies. They lie, they steal, they cheat, they murder, and they blackmail. Pray for the innocent. Maklid is yet another example of the horseshoe theory in effect. It wasn't just Candace Owens. He's retweeted Marjorie Taylor Greene, promoted Tucker Carlson, this anti-Semitic goon Dan Bilzerian. And what made this whole episode perfect in terms of the direction of the Democratic Party is Maklid defeated a Jewish incumbent member of the Board of Regents who had been victimized by anti-Semitic vandalism. He's a guy named Jordan Acker. Here's a Detroit News story from late 2024. This is terrorism, the headline. University of Michigan Regent's home vandalized. A University of Michigan regent whose office was vandalized earlier this year is calling on state and federal authorities to investigate an early Monday attack as an act of terrorism, characterizing incidents as Klan-like and saying they should be condemned by all officials. UM Regent Jordan Acker said his home and his wife's vehicle were both vandalized. Someone threw a mason jar through one of his home's windows and spray painted the words "Divest and Free Palestine" on an SUV, said Acker, who is Jewish. Those kind of attacks are obviously a byproduct of the pro-Hamas sentiment on college campuses like the University of Michigan during the Gaza war. Maklid, of course, on the side of the demonstrators during those incidents, and in fact represented pro bono some University of Michigan protesters. Now, all you need to know about this Democratic convention to get the feel of where these people are on these issues is the contrast between Maklid going on stage and the reception, someone endorsing Acker.
Trying to save money on business travel? You should definitely use Navan. Navan's platform helps our companies save money by giving us...
Here's Maklid.
See this? This is Michigan Democratic Party, the MDP. Sounds like even communists, like the CCP, the MDP. See how they're branding this? You need to wake up. Michigan is in danger of Sharia, all right? But it's not just Michigan. It's also New York City, which is the heartbeat of the country. Now, if your heart is all clogged up and it's not working right, not pumping the blood right, do you think your body is perfusing blood properly and that you're going to be healthy? Of course not. Now, what do you think is going to happen to New York when the center of capitalism has a heart attack? You think you're going to be healthy? You think the rest of the country is going to be better off? Of course not. Look at exactly this. You could see this on the screen here. Maybe it's a little difficult because of my mic, but it's MDP, Michigan Democratic Party. This is spun in blue, not red, like the CCP. But it's this combination of socialism and communism, and then also the Sharia thing. Now, Sharia is 100% antithetical to the Enlightenment. All right? So just get that straight. Anything aligned with Sharia is not John Locke, is not the Enlightenment, is not the founders' perspective of our constitutional republic. Let's just full stop with that. And then he's going up on stage that's representing a party within a constitutional republic, and he's playing Middle Eastern music. This is a problem. We are having a society that is not assimilating, that is aligning themselves with the Middle East. And guess what? I'd like to know, is this Sharia, is this Sharia aligned with Sunni? Or is this Sharia aligned with Shiite? Because it's a big difference, especially with what's going on in the Middle East right now with our military operations. So this person, are they aligned with Iran? They are aligned with Saudis? Maybe a little bit of both? What's going on here? And why placate to a population playing Middle Eastern music? I mean, if I was running for politics, I guess I'd play Guns N' Roses, Welcome to the Jungle. Why the hell are you playing some Middle Eastern music? We are not a Middle Eastern country. We're not a country of Sharia. We are a country of the Enlightenment. This is a big problem. People need to wake up to it.
Here in contrast is the endorser of Jordan Acker, a guy named Jonathan Kinlock, getting booed off the stage talking about Acker.
We must continue to be committed to supporting Jordan Acker, because Jordan Acker is committed to a better community.
By the way, the non-Jewish incumbent in the Board of Regents race, who basically had the same positions as Acker, didn't lose, was not defeated at that convention. So this is a much broader phenomenon than just the Board of Regents race there in Michigan. Bigger thing going on in Michigan itself. We have a Macklin-type candidate in that Senate race, Abdul Al-Sayed. Macklin has campaigned for him together with Hassan Piker, vicious anti-Israel supporter also of terror groups like Hezbollah and Hamas, a real toxic stew. And this is being driven by sea change in public sentiment towards Israel among the Democrats and among young people. Here's Steve Kornacki, the NBC data analyst.
Well, this is fascinating, but historically speaking, Steve, support for Israel has actually been higher.
Yeah, this is now much more even than it used to be. Yeah. And there are two particular drivers of this. I think it's very interesting. One of them is partisan. Republicans, overwhelmingly on the Israeli side. Democrats, this is the big shift. Now, overwhelmingly 3-1 on the Palestinian.
Now, think about that. Now, you have also the right wing, like Candace Owens and Alex Jones and Tucker and Megyn Kelly, that's going to give the Democrats a win in the House in the midterms. But they're also aligned with the Palestinians and not the Israelis. But the thing is that Israel wants to prevent Sharia in Israel, all right? Israel's trying to prevent a loss on the battlefield by Hezbollah and Hamas. Israel is defending their country. Israel wants peace. But the thing is they're in total war. And the reality is that you can't have a two-state solution. It's not going to work. One side has to win. The Palestinians are going to have to win, or the Israelis have to win. And honestly, I really don't care because I'm an American. I really don't care. I do know that whoever is going to win on the battlefield, they have the right of the land, independent of if they think it's from God or not. If the Israelis can defend it, it's their right. If the Israelis can't defend it, it's not their right. It's that simple. And Judaism will continue on with or without Israel as a country. It has for thousands of years. So, but the point here is Israel is in the right to defend themselves. And if Hamas and Hezbollah can win on the battlefield, well, that's their right to win land. But they're not winning. They're losing. Now, why would the Democratic Party align themselves with the Palestinians? Why? Okay, first, it's strategic to create a divide where you don't want to align yourselves with the GOP because the GOP is aligned with Israel. So they want to go the opposite. That's one reason. Two, they're going into areas that may not vote, that potentially become voters, and it could swing elections. And that is this immigrant with some affinity to Middle Eastern culture. They may be, Shiite, they may be Sunni, they may not even be Muslim, but have some affinity to it. And the Palestinians, aligning with the Palestinians, that's a get the youth vote also from the colleges. And this is the reason why Turning Point is so important in terms of making sure that they are able to reach out to young voters on college campuses to make sure that they vote for Republican. But unfortunately, since Charlie Kirk's death, Turning Point is failing. So this alignment to the Palestinians is from the ones that are doing the playbook for the Democratic Party. They don't really care about the plight of the Palestinians. They've used this as an opportunity to win votes. But the people that are voting, that are believing the rhetoric, they do care about the plight of the Palestinian, not the plight of Israelis. But unfortunately, when you align yourself like that to candidates that are aligned with Sharia and not a constitutional republic, not aligned with the Enlightenment, you're going to get leaders in the government at the local level and even at the federal level that hate America. Now, this is a problem. And this is what the Israelis have been warning people about. There is a metastasizing that's taking place. The United States is a nation of immigrants, a nation of a multitude of people with the presumption of assimilation into something that we try to describe as the American culture. Now, you can have enclaves and, but when those enclaves become pernicious, and those enclaves become a systemic risk, then we got a problem. And that is exactly what's starting to arise here. This alignment with the Palestinians, this alignment with Sharia, this alignment with the Middle Eastern culture in the United States is a cancer to the very foundation of what we are. And we are followers of the Enlightenment.
The inside, and then the second piece of it, it's generational, it's age. Gen Z, that rising generation, look at this. Across party there, 3/4 of Gen Z say they sympathize more with the Palestinians than the Israelis. That's a massive sea change.
It gets worse. Look at this. This is a breakdown of fave, unfave ratings of Israel, China, and Iran among Democrats under 50, 62% unfavorable to Israel, only 54% unfavorable to Iran, and 43% unfavorable to China. Unbelievable. Now we see the sentiment reflected now, not just in rising Democrats who might.
So you have a constituency voting Democrat that's under 50 that actually prefers Iran and China. Iran, theocratic regime that doesn't want women to have rights. And China, which is a one-party system that's communist, using capitalism to fund their communism.
Come future office holders, but in the mainstream of the current Democratic Party, 40 out of 47 Democratic senators just voted for a Bernie Sanders-sponsored resolution to cut off military sales to Israel. What is happening is the foreign policy of the Democratic Party is being reoriented around a virulent opposition to Israel, with all that implies, including opposition to alleged malign Israeli or Jewish influence on our domestic politics, and underneath it all, a foundation of anti-Westernism. What we are seeing aborting is the Dearborn Democratic Party, and that's going to be a very bad thing for our politics, for our national interest, and for our country. I'm Rich Lowry, over and out.
Something that used to terrify me in my business was doing.
It's a big problem. People need to wake up or it'll be too late. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the structural nanosilver lozenges and drops. They're made from very high quality structural nanosilver. You can get it in honey and lemon and also in cherry flavor. In addition, you can get the lozenges, which are a little larger than the drops, in Manuka honey and also in orange splash. So please go to my store. Get a few bags for your household. They're perfect for the cold season, the allergy season, which we're in right now, and also when you're cleaning the garage or the basement or your home and you're in a dusty area. Prevent that irritation. All right. And when you mitigate and you neutralize because of the structural nanosilver, you're going to be able to weather whatever you're being exposed to. So please go to my store, take my advice, and get the structural nanosilver lozenges and drops. They're very high quality. Now, also get the olive leaf extract. Olive leaf extract is dual purpose. It's going to help with your immune system and your cardiovascular system. Why? Because it brings down inflammation and it helps you to control your lipid profile. By controlling your LDL levels and lowering those and increasing your HDL levels, you're reducing plaque formation. Super important. And again, if you have better cardiovascular health, you will have better brain function because you have better blood flow. And when you bring down that inflammation, you're also improving your brain function. Now, vitamin D3, super important to take. Why? It allows you to absorb calcium. You do resistance training and you get denser bone. But vitamin D3 is a gene expression cofactor, so your cells perform properly. It also helps to get cells to go into apoptosis if they're infected, so it's super important during the cold season. And vitamin D3 is super important for your cardiovascular health. You stack it with K2, MK7, the turmeric, ashwagandha root, nattokinase, omega-3. And that's a great stack to help to prevent further plaque. And over time, by proper diet and exercise, you can shrink the plaque buildup. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the vitamin D3. And then there's a protocol out there that I should do another video about it. There's a protocol on how to reverse osteoarthritis with vitamin D3 and K2. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. If you spend $100 or more, you get a free gift until supplies last. And also make sure you use discount 5. I want you to save some money. Now, the markets are moving a little bit as we're going through these different videos. The oil market has been ticking up and is now trading at $88.14 for WTI futures. The equity market is trading at 7,121. The peak intraday trading today for the S&P 500 was 7,137. And Bitcoin is trading at 76,500. And we're also having natural gas go up a little bit. It's just below 2.7. And for the ones that have been paying attention, intraday trading for UCO is climbing up. It's now trading at 40.28 because that's tied to oil. So WTI is going up, so is UCO. Now, why is it going up? Probably because traders are saying, you know what? Wednesday is around the corner here, it's tomorrow. What is going to happen in Iran? And most likely there's going to be military operations and there probably will be a spike in oil. I suspect that it'll be trading in the 90 range tomorrow, maybe even today, but I suspect that it'll be trading in the 90 range tomorrow, but below the 100 range. So we'll have to see. Anything can happen in the world of Trump. All right, what we want to do is take a look at some more breaking news here. Let's see what's
different than most academics.
This is Kevin Warsh's speech. He is in Congress right now for his confirmation hearing. Let's just listen in a little bit.
That we can reform the institution with my colleagues if confirmed. The sooner we can ensure price stability, and we can have a new set of leaders atop the institution with high, credible, ethical standards to return the Fed to what it should be. The independence that both Chairman Scott and Senator Warren mentioned, critically important. But independence has to be earned, and it's earned by delivering on the promises, the commitments that the Fed has made. And as the Fed hasn't delivered on those promises, we shouldn't be surprised that we hear politics that are entering the room at the Fed. And you get the politics out of it so the Fed can focus on its day job, deliver on full employment and stable prices.
It's true that people want to see stability within the Fed, but is it okay for a Fed governor or a chairman to change their mind on a particular policy?
It's more than okay, it's essential. Economics is not physics, it's not math. Frankly, most of us that ended up in the economics business, we started like I did as a math major. It was too hard. So we ended up in economics. In economics, what we need to do is focus the left of the decimal point, not to the right of the decimal point. We need to focus on the big things. And if mistakes are made, central bankers, economic policymakers need to correct them fast. The real mistakes, the mistakes that cause inflation to be persistent, to undermine hardworking Americans' standard of living, and when those mistakes go on.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Senator Reed.
Mr. Chairman, before we start the next question, I ask that we have entered into the record the U.S. Office of Government Ethics certification, which requires that all nominees disclose all of their assets, and showing that Mr. Warsh is out of compliance and that he has not met the ethics requirements.
But without objection, I will note, however, that what has been clearly articulated is that he will, according to his agreement with OGE, do what many others have done as well within 90 days, be not only in compliance, but to have divested himself from any assets that are in question.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask? I don't think we've had other nominees who are out of compliance and not disclosing at the time they come before the hearing.
Not in this committee, that's correct.
Not in this committee.
Before we, here's what we're not going to do.
Fair enough.
We're not going to have two chairmen, for sure.
Just ask.
Number one. Number two, what we're also not going to do is debate what we're putting into the record. And finally, what we are going to do is have a conversation about America's economy and, frankly, we all deserve the opportunity to ask our questions. We don't get to figure out the answers, but we do get to ask our questions. And I hope that we are able to continue in that direction. As long as we are, we're going to have a very good hearing. And if we're not, then I will find a way to help us expedite getting back on track. Senator Reid.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Walsh. Until you dispose of all the assets you've identified to the Office of Government Ethics, you will not be in compliance. Is that correct?
My understanding is that a signed ethics agreement provides duties and responsibilities on me and duties and responsibilities on the government. And that's what the nature of the ethics agreement is.
You have an agreement that within 90 days, you will dispose of all your assets. Is that correct?
Senator, I have an agreement within 90 days so that there is no appearance of anything inappropriate, that I would divest all of my assets, the majority of which before sworn in. What I've disclosed, Senator, is all the information that is mine to disclose. I've shared all information about assets that I control and that I can share, which I did much to the satisfaction of the Government Ethics Office.
Excuse me. What you've said is that you will take the oath, if confirmed as chairman, with assets that have already been identified as presenting potential conflicts of interest. Will you agree to not take the oath until you have fully disposed all the assets that you've been identified?
Senator, I'll agree to take the oath pursuant to the terms of the ethics agreement that I struck with the Office of Government Ethics. I don't think anyone could do more than that. Other than me, I've agreed to divest even more assets, that I will have virtually no financial assets.
The divestiture is totally up to you. You can select what assets you're disposing of, what assets you keep. Is that correct? And then still be sworn in as chairman.
The divestiture is up to the agreement that I struck with the Office of Government Ethics.
Who makes the decision as to what assets are divested, you or the Office of Government Ethics?
Both of us. That's why it's an agreement.
Excuse me. I must commend you on the way you can really go around questions and not answer them. It's a skill. Unfortunately, it's not a good skill
for the Federal Reserve
or the Federal Reserve Board. We typically ask questions and expect to get answers. You haven't given them to the ranking member, and you're not giving them to me. So again, you feel you will not be, you will be compliant if after 90 days, you still have a significant number of assets that have been identified as presenting conflicts of interest. Is that your view?
No, Senator. If I were to violate the ethics agreement, I would not be in compliance. If I follow the agreement, I will be.
Well, that's your position. I think others would differ.
It's a little dry listening to the Congress. So basically what it is he comes from a wealthy family, right? I think he married into wealth. I believe Estee Lauder is, Estee Lauder, I should say, not Loiter. Estee Lauder, I believe he married into the family. But the bottom line is this. If there's an agreement to put it into a blind trust, he's not managing the assets, then what's the big deal? Oh, what it is Democrats want to go after him because he's a wealthy individual. What he should have said was something like, maybe to get your approval, because you're a Democrat, I should sell everything and just donate it to food pantries in New York City, because Mondani seems to have a problem with managing his finances. You know, it's just ridiculous. I mean, it's just totally ridiculous. We're going to go to Cash Jordan talking about how New York is going to hell in a handbasket. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the heirloom barley. This will bring down inflammation, soak up free radicals. Have you noticed that there is a theme of everything I'm saying? It's so important. Soak up free radicals, bring down inflammation. Boost up those energy levels, and you will slow down the aging process, and you'll get healthy. It's amazing how that works. Now, heirloom barley will soak up those free radicals, bring down that inflammation, and detoxify your body. If you take this regularly and you work out, you'll notice that your workouts are recovering quicker. You're recovering from your workout quicker. All right. Now, it'll also help with bringing down inflammation and help with your joint health. It helps with the endocrine system and the immune system. And by bringing down inflammation at your brain level, you're helping brain function. You're also helping with your cardiovascular health. So it's really important to take every day. Now, I also have the Gladiator barley, which is very similar to the heirloom barley, but you get one extra benefit with the Gladiator barley, and that is when you do resistance training, it'll help you to build muscle. Both the Gladiator barley and the heirloom barley can be stacked with Boomer Boost. And by doing that, you're also helping with your A1C levels, controlling your A1C levels, and you're helping to additionally bring down inflammation and soaking up free radicals. It's important to understand that not all antioxidants are the same, and that the different antioxidants can work together to be able to soak up the free radicals. Now, to soak up the free radicals with heirloom barley or Gladiator barley is through superoxide dismutase. And it's synergistic with the C60, which also soaks up free radicals. So that if you attack the problem in different ways, you're actually slowing down the aging process and reducing that methylation that's taking place on your genes. Because part of aging is methylating genes where it's silencing or reducing the expression of those genes. So you want to prevent that and try to reverse it. When you do that, you're slowing down the aging process. In essence, it's not so much your genes that are so important. It's the epigenetics, the expression of certain genes at certain times. If you control that, you can slow down the aging process. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. And also get the vitamin B complex. Vitamin B complex will help to boost up those energy levels. The first 4 B vitamins helps the electron transport chain within your mitochondria so you have more ATP. Vitamin B complex revs up your cellular metabolism so your tissues are performing better. You're going to be able to control your BMI. You're going to have more energy and be more active. And also, vitamin B complex protects neurons through vitamin B12. Super important. And lastly, digestive enzyme complex. This supplement has the enzymes to break up carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids and reduce the load on your pancreas. Super important. You don't want to be a Steve Jobs. You don't want to be a Tim Cook either, but don't be a Steve Jobs. Make sure you have good pancreatic health. Also, vitamin B, the digestive enzyme complex will help break up clots because there's bromelain in it. So the digestive enzyme complex breaks up food, helps you to digest, reduces the load on your pancreas, and also helps to break up clots. Super important. It's a great supplement that you should be taking. Now, if you're an athlete, this is perfect for you because you're going to be able to break up your pre-fuel source or your post-fuel source easier to be able to replenish your body and your muscles. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the digestive enzyme complex. It's a great product. All my products are great products. I wouldn't put them on the store if they weren't. And these are products that I take regularly to slow down the aging process. So you can take my advice and get healthy. And you're helping support the work that I do. All these videos are for free. So please go to my store. Use discount 5. You get $5 off. If you spend $100 or more, you get a free gift until supplies last. All right, let's listen into how New York is going to hell in a handbasket.
They put the plate down like it's a piece of art. They make me feel that way.
One sentence away from launching your website with Base 44. Since the beginning of the internet, there's never been such a fun, fast, and intelligent way to launch online.
You shouldn't be trying to steal my house. Yes, you are.
Deed theft, where homeowners are essentially tricked out of their properties, has been a pervasive problem for a few years now. And now this group is rallying outside the governor's office, demanding that she do something about it.
So, while New York City's communist mayor brings about his plans to confiscate homes from the law-abiding, it seems squatters are beating him to the punch, using predatory tactics to scam the innocent out of their life savings and achievements, which they worked decades to obtain, but now find themselves battling New York's ever-expanding affordability crisis in unexpected ways, completely trapping the law-abiding between what used to be their home and the cold, hard street.
The man who claims to be the one actually leasing the house shows up.
Call the police again.
With the other guy, police took off the property.
This guy just literally broke down my door.
Meng Yu bought this house in Kew Gardens, Queens last year and has the paperwork to prove it. His wife wanted to move in right away to cut down her work commute, but Yu says a woman who'd been living in the house refused to leave.
My father and I worked really hard. We scraped and we saved and we purchased our home legally and legitimately.
Rachel Cyprian was shaking mad as she spoke with us outside the governor's office about the devastating impact of her 15-year fight to reclaim ownership of her Brooklyn home following deed theft.
What are you doing in the house? Are you renting this house? If you own this house, you would not want her inside.
I don't own this.
Exactly,
Yes.
she does.
Yes, but then once again, you should know how the law works.
Complaints about deed theft jumped from 149 in 2023 to 517 last year. So Adele, you're getting arrested right now?
Being arrested.
For what?
For being in my own home.
Arrested for unlawful eviction. She changed the locks on a man who claims he lives there.
So sometimes these scammers, they do get busted, but deed theft complaints are up 240%. And what nobody's talking about is the reason people are stealing homes all over the city is because of our socialism-induced affordability nightmare. You see, New York City has decided personal property ownership is wrong, and landlords and property developers are evil, which is why they aren't allowed to build anything, much less reclaim homes that are stolen from them by scammers and squatters, creating a massive housing shortage, with only 1% of apartments even available to rent. Why? Because nobody wants to build or invest in a place that's just going to rob them blind. And when you add that to the new mayor's plans to raise property taxes and punish landlords by raising fees with the goal of confiscating private buildings for public use, you create a situation where the homes we have now are the only ones we're going to have for a long time. And this is where the squatting nightmare takes effect. You see, when there's very few homes available, those that remain, they shoot up in value. And now you've got scammers using sophisticated tools like AI to forge documents and transfer the ownership of homes out from under their rightful owners, who now find themselves getting evicted in the middle of the day by sheriffs, telling people their most prized possessions belong to somebody else who just showed up out of nowhere. And when these property owners ask for help, the city that's supposed to help them is nowhere to be found. And that brings us to the real reason we've got this problem to begin with. The same government that has allowed a housing crisis to explode underneath its feet by punishing the victims, they're the same ones that are supposed to protect those people when scammers and squatters come along, but they're not doing that either. And criminals are just running wild in this lawless city. Now, the city and state do have resources that tell people how they can keep an eye on whether or not they still own their property. But the problem is scammers have all the leverage here because of New York's backlogged, corrupt court system, which is so inefficient it lets justice fly out the window. And when you couple that with the fact that landlords and property owners have zero rights, and anyone who finds themselves in someone's home has all the power, we've got criminals working the system to their advantage. And as you're about to see, when lawless individuals are protected or enabled by a broken system, they come for the law-abiding in ways none of us would ever expect.
Meng Yu bought this house in Kew Gardens, Queens last year and has the paperwork to prove it. Yet he's locked out and fighting in court for access while the district attorney investigates.
I hope the city will starting to do their job, because this is just not right. And for the homeowners, we need a basic protection.
His wife wanted to move in right away to cut down her work commute, but you says a woman who'd been living in the house refused to leave.
Great.
You started the eviction process, but in December, he says that same woman somehow took over the deed.
This is wild. So we got these people. What do? They save up their money. They go out. They buy a home. They think they've got the American dream, but oh, no, somebody lives in that home and they refuse to move out. Now, before we get into what this person did to make sure that they'll probably never have to move out of this home, you got to understand that there are two types of people out there, two types of squatters that are stealing homes. You've got the first type, which moves into a property that they don't own, takes it over by subterfuge with fraudulent documents, or just happens to be in there and is in there long enough that they can never be evicted. That's who this gentleman is dealing with. But there's also another type that figures out how to get their hands on your home legally without you knowing it and does something else with it behind the scenes. We're going to get to that. But look at the broken system this homeowner is faced with and how it will do nothing to help him while someone lives in a house he's forced to pay for.
I was shocked. How could this be possible? Because only the owner are supposed to sell the house.
Right. He started digging and found some puzzling paperwork. City records show the property owner changed twice in one day back in 2006.
Weird.
And wound up in the hands of that same woman who is now claiming the property. Even though she apparently bought the property in 2006, that transfer wasn't filed in the city's records until 12 years later in 2018.
That's weird.
But records show a bank sold the home to you last year.
That's wild. So there's something very fishy going on here. But you got to remember, New York City's in the middle of a housing crisis. Only 1.4% of apartments can even be rented. There's massive demand for people to live somewhere, and rents are $5,000 a month right now on average. And you know what that means? That means we're going to have criminals, armies of them, all over town trying to figure out how to live somewhere for free. And the problem is New York City's laws allow that, because in this place, if someone finds their way inside your home and they're there long enough, there's nothing that can happen. They're not a criminal. The case has to go to housing court, which is slanted in favor of tenants. I got a friend who rents out his studio apartment in a nice part of Manhattan. And you know what? He's got a tenant in there. They haven't paid any rent since last year. They were supposed to go to court back in January. We had the massive snowstorm. Judge delayed everything until May. He's losing half a year's rent before getting any justice. And the entire time this has been going on, the person that he is supposed to be leasing the place to, who's not paying, they're calling him and they're asking him to buy them out to get them to leave. And since he's not doing it, they're dragging him through the mud with a court process, which is totally enabled by how broken our system is. It doesn't protect homeowners like my friend or this gentleman, and it doesn't protect homeowners who might be living in their homes and then might get a knock on the door from the sheriff who says, hey, you got to go. This isn't your home anymore.
Rachel Cyprian was shaking mad as she spoke with us outside the governor's office about the devastating impact of her 15-year fight to reclaim ownership of her Brooklyn home following deed theft.
It leads to homelessness. It leads to depression. It leads to all sorts of failures.
Deed theft is when a property's title is transferred away from the rightful owner, generally due to deceptive or predatory tactics.
Why spend hours on complex video platforms? With the upgraded Canva video editor, we've made it easy to edit.
Frequently, the targets are seniors and communities of color.
What do we want? That's crazy. Can you imagine 15 years fighting to get possession of an asset you've already paid for and you already own? That's not the American dream, but that's not something that exists in a place that has voted for communism. You see, New York, it's voting for other people's money. That's why we have broken systems that don't protect people who are homeowners. That's why we're electing people who come out right out of the gate say, hey, we're going to raise property taxes on homeowners because they're prisoners here, because they've got these assets they care so much about. We're going to exploit them to pay for all kinds of free stuff while doing nothing to help them, while letting their homes get stolen by squatters or companies or predatory scammers. Why would somebody want to steal a home's deed while somebody else lives in it? Well, I'll tell you why. There's a great opportunity here to take advantage of somebody whose home is shot up in value without them realizing it. And if scammers can get legal possession of your home using tools on the internet, and they can take out a mortgage or they can sell that home to somebody else and make off with all the money, boom, they've just committed a financial crime that they'll probably never be held accountable for, because they'll be long gone by the time justice rolls around in this city and state. And this this woman's right. This does lead to homelessness. It does lead to depression because you've got people fighting for their future and fighting to get possession of the thing that they worked hard for, which is supposed to provide for them in retirement. And wait till you hear what the scammers are doing with these places.
It definitely is fraudulent. This is not your home, no matter how you want to claim otherwise. And please move out.
Last month, that woman denied committing any fraud in response to a lawsuit from you. In a bankruptcy filing last year, the same woman noted she doesn't own any property. The Queens District Attorney's Office says it can't comment on cases currently under investigation, and there's no shortage of those.
With the technology advancing and new ways of creating documents like birth certificates, social security numbers, any type of ID that you can make on the internet, it's becoming much more prevalent.
But it doesn't have to be that way because in this specific case, we've got a homeowner who bought a home from a bank and tried to move in and is told by somebody who apparently owned it in 2018 that they own it. Meanwhile, that same person who's in the home was just in bankruptcy court and admitted to the court that they don't own any property. So how do we have to have another investigation through a different system to figure out if this person actually owns the home they just said they do not own? You see, this is the problem. And this is why owning property in a place that hates property owners is.
This goes back to what I was saying. When you have a society that doesn't have God, country, and family is part of the Enlightenment, the bedrock of our society is the Enlightenment. We have property rights through our constitutional republic. If you don't have these three pillars, God, country, and family, your society starts to devolve. And you get lawlessness, and this is lawlessness. I mean, obviously, the people that are doing this feel as though they can get away with it, so they don't have some sort of affinity to a higher power, looking down on their good deeds and their bad deeds. And they obviously don't care about country. They don't care about their society. They think that stealing is okay. Well, it's not okay. Not from a religious standpoint, but also for just continuity within and peacefulness within your society. This is an erosion of our way of life. Now, it's because of people thinking that it's okay to steal. It's not okay to steal from people. It's just not. From a religious standpoint, from family creation standpoint, is this what you want to instill in your kids if you do this kind of thing? What about the people that are harmed by this? Think about the stress and the turmoil it creates within a household. This is wrong. And then you have a society that's not willing to push back, a government, a city that can't rectify the wrong quickly. This is just out of control. It's out of control. And this is what liberals have given you. This is what the Democratic Party gave you. Lawlessness, an erosion of God, country, and family. But people continue to vote stupid Democrats into office, and your society will continue to devolve more and more.
Big issue. If you're going to do that, you're at the mercy of a system that's designed to protect everybody except for you. Why? Because you've done something wrong by getting the funds to own property. You've done something that is evil, and that's why we've got politicians that want to come in and tax you so that they can pay for all kinds of stuff. Why? Because there's people that are out there, they don't have a home yet. They may never have one, but you do, and that's not right. So guess what? You're going to have to help the rest of us. Meanwhile, even if things work out successfully for this gentleman, the court backlog means that a period of time is going to go by where somebody's got to pay for this home, somebody's got to pay the taxes, they got to pay for all the utilities and stuff that are inside of it while they don't have access to it. And that's also the landlord. So you've got people who are losing money every single day. They fight squatters in some manner in this city. They're losing while their assailants the ones who are stealing from them are winning, and nothing is done about it.
Owners, including these three. Prosecutors charged a man with stealing someone's identity to commit deed fraud on the homes, leading to a guilty plea. Investigators still don't know his real name, but a judge recently sentenced him to 4 to 9 years in prison.
There has
I
been
don't think he's
times
going to jail.
when it's too much money, too many resources, too many assistant district attorneys, too many obstacles in the way to investigate that.
That's crazy.
And it shouldn't be that way.
But it is.
Complaints about deed theft to New York Attorney General Letitia James's office jumped from 149 in 20.
You know why complaints are going up?
If you're a man who makes at least $150K a year and you feel self-conscious about your gut sticking out, I'll get you shredded. Or
because people are getting away with it. Now, complaints are up last year about this sort of thing, and this is after New York passed a whole bunch of anti-squatting laws. And the reason this is such a problem is because here the scammers, they've got all the advantages. They're the ones that act first. They either break into the home and start living there and accumulate a bunch of fake documents to prove that they've been there for a month and then get to stay for half a year or longer, or they steal the property by working the system somehow, submitting fake paperwork, fraudulently signing forms over, selling properties to other people behind the owner's back. And all of this happens before the homeowner knows everything. If you live in your home and you've got the keys, you're not checking every day to see if the place that you live in is actually safe for you to live in. But I guess in New York, you have to do that because criminals are trying to steal from you while you live somewhere, and nobody's trying to stop them.
Now, Brooklyn City Councilman Chiose is pressing the governor to put a moratorium on evictions where there's a deed theft case pending or being investigated.
We are pleading to the governor, to the head of the state, to do right by all of us, to do right by Black New Yorkers, and to do your job.
During the moratorium, Chiose and other elected leaders are demanding legislative fixes, like more support for homeowners in eviction court, special investigative units inside district attorneys' offices, a public database of shell companies associated with deed theft.
Okay, all of what they're talking about is going to make the problem worse because what are they saying? They want more protections for people who are going through this process while they live in a home. Well, we've got a story that we're looking at in companion to this, where a gentleman who bought a home is trying to get somebody out and they've got a fake deed. And guess what? Now they'll be able to stay forever if these new protections go through. You see, the same government that is inept at prosecuting criminals here and already has a system that is slanted against property owners. They want to pass more laws. These are the same people, the same politicians out there rallying for rent freezes. This is the same politician that banned brokers from collecting commissions from tenants in this city. They're against the real estate industry. They're against home ownership. And once they ram through some set of legislative fixes, the problem here is only going to get worse because what these laws are going to do, they're just going to extend the amount of time the investigations have to happen. And since New York is a tenant-friendly state, once you're in a place, everything works out in your favor if you're willing to be a criminal.
In response, a spokeswoman for the governor's office did not mention an immediate moratorium, but said the governor has taken a number of steps to push back against
because that would be a disaster.
No New Yorker should be cheated out of the opportunity to keep their home, which is why Governor Hochul has proposed $40 million in her state budget for the Homeowner Protection Program, and why she has led the way in enacting strong protections to empower homeowners.
Okay, but you see, the reason that this is a problem is because New York City is actively fighting against the idea that anyone here should own anything, much less be entitled to profiting from it. Yeah, that's right. The new mayor has a plan to seize housing. Now, this is being done under the auspices of protecting people. He wants to freeze rents, which will deepen the affordability crisis because you've got buildings that aren't going to earn enough money to fix themselves. If those buildings can't afford to fix themselves, the city's going to fine them. Those fines are going to be huge. And if the buildings can't pay the fines, the city is going to do what it can to legally take possession of those buildings and put them in the city's housing portfolio. You see, this is the plan here. If you're a landlord and you own something, every single law that we have here, which is supposed to work for you, actually works against you. This is not a state that believes in personal property. And when you hear the numbers for how bad it is to live here, it should be pretty obvious that squatting is.
And that's why I keep on saying Democrats don't believe in the Enlightenment. The Enlightenment, the foundation of John Locke, was life, liberty, and property rights. And our whole constitutional republic is predicated on this. This is the reason why people need to push back. and prevent the Democrats from causing lawlessness. They cause lawlessness. They cause this problem. They allow this to happen. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the C60. C60, you can get it in a 2 ounce, 4 ounce, or an 8 ounce configuration. You can get it in extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, and MCT coconut oil. C60 should be taken on an empty stomach for best absorption. Take a teaspoon a day every day. And when you do that, your tissues will perform better, your cells will perform better, you'll have more energy, your mitochondria will be healthier, you'll have better cardiovascular health because you're soaking up the free radicals at the blood level, at the vascular level, and you're reducing oxidized LDL, so you're reducing plaque formation. Your brain function will improve because your neurons will be healthier and have more energy. You'll have better neuroplasticity, and you'll also improve the basal layer for your skin. So take C60, improve your immune system, your endocrine system, super important to take every day. This is a protocol that I've been following for over 10 years. I've been taking C60, a teaspoon a day, every day for 10 years. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the C60. Also, collagen. Collagen will help to remodel your joints. It'll help to rebuild the cartilage, help remodel the cushioning of the joint. It'll also block enzymes that erode the joint and also block enzymes that cause inflammation. Super important, and it'll help to remodel the joint that you have, either because of osteoarthritis or a sports injury. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the collagen. And you can stack it with the collagen too, which I will mention in another break here. But, you know, the bottom line is that Democrats aren't willing to protect people's property. They think it's okay to have lawlessness and the erosion of the three pillars: God, country, and family. Big problem. Big problem. All right. I want to take a look at, this was 7 minutes ago, about Iran negotiations.
Navan, the #1 rated business travel platform, lets your team book work travel in one place. Flights, hotels, cars.
Meanwhile, some serious news. Vice President J.D. Vance is reportedly set to hit Pakistan today for new rounds of peace talks with Iran.
President Trump says if there's no deal, he's unlikely to extend the ceasefire, which expires tomorrow.
All right, Matt Finn is live in Islamabad ahead of those high-stake negotiations. Matt.
Ryan, the U.S. delegation led by the vice president has not publicly confirmed its anticipated travel here to Pakistan. This is really an hour-by-hour situation. The United States seems to be all systems go, but state media associated with the Iranian regime has been reporting that Iran has not confirmed that it's sending a delegation here to Islamabad. Now, Iran's reluctance to publicly confirm the second round of peace talks may be Iran posturing or doing PR. So far, the U.S. has seemingly not pulled the plug. Iranian state media claims one sticking point is the U.S. blockade. State media has said as long as that blockade remains on the Strait of Hormuz, Iran may not negotiate. But the president has said a blockade will remain in place on the strait. And the president is also warning about the future of the 2-week ceasefire, which was broken anyway and is set to expire tomorrow. Now, we did an interview with the head of the European Ship Owners Association, which says it represents about 1/3 of the world's ships. Right now, the Strait of Hormuz remains closed, and Iran is asking to inspect ships carrying billions of dollars in cargo and is demanding fees.
It is unacceptable that seafarers, that the lives of seafarers and the safety of the seafarers are put at risk. Seafarers that are just doing their job, especially in international straits such as the Strait of Hormuz. The United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea must apply, in particular the principle of free transit passage.
And one of the latest updates from the president of Iran's republic, he says that Iranians do not submit to force, referring to the United States. We will keep you updated on this critical second round of peace talks here in Islamabad. Back to New York.
All right, we'll see. All eyes in Islamabad. Thanks so much, Matt.
The first three didn't submit to negotiations either, Brian, and they're no longer with us.
Right. And a lot of the IRGC leadership has been killed. Yeah. Certainly, they've lost 40 people in the initial strike, including the Grand Ayatollah. Without the ISW, the Institute for Study of War, has a story that The Economist kind of brought up. In the first round of talks, I guess they had about 70 people there, but they couldn't agree. They were fighting with each other. And it was the Pakistanis that were, guys, settle down, come up with one message. We sent 3 people. Yeah. They have a lot of different people because we killed a lot of them, eliminated them. But now, Ainsley, it's a battle between General Ahmed Bakidi, he's from the IRGC, and Mahmoud Bakhtir Ghalibaf. Now, Ghalibaf is a childhood friend of Soleimani, but he decided to go the political route. Soleimani went the military route. And initially, he seemed to have the political power. But the IRGC has the guns, and they seem to be having the harder stance. We don't know who's going to emerge from this.
They say that this internal split. It's about relations with the U.S., obviously. It's also about their economic policy and management of the Strait of Hormuz. So it's a difference between the diplomatic wing, which is the one Brian's talking about, Ghalibaf, which is, yes, and that's Iran's parliamentary speaker. And he has been meeting with Witkoff and with Jared Kushner. So now it looks like maybe the IRGC is stepping up and saying, because we're not happy with the direction of these talks, then maybe we need to put Vahidi in place, or maybe this is coming from the Supreme Leader, because apparently, according to this, he's the only official that has direct access to the Supreme Leader.
So the Institute of Study of War, our friend Jack King, puts it this way. The Iranian parliament speaker, Mohammad Ghalibaf, appears to be engaged in a serious intra-regime debate with the IRGC commander, Major General Ahmad Vahidi, and other senior regime officials opposed to negotiations with the United States. Vahidi appears to have the upper hand over Ghalibaf at this moment. Vahidi is reportedly the only Iranian official with direct access to the Supreme Leader. It is serving as a conduit for relaying key decisions to the other regime officials, according to Israeli media on April 19th. So it's kind of hard to get a deal done. I mean, I always thought that a deal was a long shot because of an ideology that they have there. They don't want a deal. They want to kill Jews and they want to kill Americans. That's just their state. And now the Gulf states now, because they feel like they're sellouts to the religion. So it's kind of hard to get a deal done when you can't even get the Iranians on the same page here. And the people that have the most leverage when it comes to the Iranians are the people with the guns, as you point out to.
Yeah, you got to open up the strait. And the Iranian parliament is now attempting to formalize Iranian control over the Strait of Hormuz by drafting a bill that would ban Israel-linked vessels, and I'm sure ours as well. They can't do that.
We're not going to agree with that.
We'll never agree with that. The world's not going to agree with that. But if they feel they're still going to hold on to that and drag out negotiations, we'll be back in battle.
But they're just posturing right now. This vote would mean nothing. America has control of the strait right now. I mean, it's just pretty much, we decide who goes in and who goes out. So this vote wouldn't really mean anything.
It's like we've been saying, it's the easy way or the hard way. In the end, the outcome is going to be the same. No nuclear weapons and open up that body of water right there, the Strait of Hormuz. And if they don't do that, the president said, no more extensions for the ceasefire. I don't think we'll do that. He says, I'll just start blowing up bridges and power plants. He doesn't want to do that because he wants peace, and he doesn't want to interrupt the people there that are the innocent civilians, but he might not have a choice.
Yeah, this guy Vahidi is as evil as it gets. He's got, like, if he travels, he's going to get arrested. He's accused of the assassination of a Jewish leader, did a bombing over in Argentina, former interior minister, defense minister, former commander of the RGC Quds Force, and now he wants to take over. And if you want to get back to the fight, this is the guy you put back in charge. The question is, do they want to get back to the fight? Do they feel it's to their advantage to do this? Now they have the speaker comes out and says, we have added new things to our arsenal. I don't know how you've done that. It looks like you're trying to dig out what's left of your arsenal. So I guess we're going to see what's going to happen shortly. I did see, you said that one of the ships did get through.
Well, they're saying, that's what the Iranians are saying. Their army is saying that one of the, we haven't confirmed that, but that's what they're telling Al Jazeera. So I think whether it got through or not, the attempt to try to get through just shows you they're not taking it very. I don't think the United States would allow them to get through.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on.
Now, what's going on in the markets right now is that oil is trading at 89.68. It's hitting that 90 barrier here. And equities are trading at 7,090. It's testing it's going down lately. I don't know if it's related to Kevin Warsh's testimony or confirmation hearing. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the collagen. This stacks really well with the collagen that I was mentioning earlier, but this will also help with your skin, your nails, your hair, your musculature, your bone density. Super important. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Take this the collagen every day. It's a month's supply. Make sure you use discount 5. Resveratrol. Resveratrol helps with youthful gene expression, soaks up free radicals, helps the health of the mitochondria. It also helps to get cells to go into apoptosis if they're in senescence. Gets rid of those senescent cells. That way your tissues will be healthier. Because senescent cells collect garbage and you don't want that. So please go to my store, get the resveratrol. Resveratrol also helps with the basal layer of your skin. Stacks really well with the collagen and C60. Omega-3 brings down inflammation and helps with the lipid profile to help with your cardiovascular health. Super important. And again, good cardiovascular health helps with the brain function. And structural nanosilver soaps helps with the skin. It helps to neutralize because of the structural nanosilver. Get a few bars for your household. You can get it in lemongrass and also in peppermint. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nanosilver soaps. Use them every day. Very high quality. Another very high quality structural nanosilver product that I have is the toothpaste. It has no fluoride. It helps to whiten your teeth, freshen your breath, reduce inflammation at the gum line, and it neutralizes. Why? Because of the structural nanosilver. And with good oral hygiene, you're going to be able to improve your cardiovascular health. A lot of people don't realize that poor oral hygiene leads to poor cardiovascular health and valvular health. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the structural nanosilver toothpaste, use it every day, get a few tubes of it for your household, and use it especially during the winter season to help to neutralize. And Clarity Factor. Clarity Factor is a very strong neurostack that allows you to concentrate. It gets rid of that brain fog. When you take this regularly with filtered water, what this will do is improve your cognition. Your memory will improve. You'll be thinking faster. That neuroplasticity, the positive neuroplasticity, will improve. You'll have more dendritic connections. Please go to my store and get the Clarity Factor. It's really important. Brain health, maintaining those neural connections, reducing inflammation at the brain level, making sure you have better blood flow. These are all very important to slow down the aging process, especially for brain function. And lastly, super strong relief. Super strong relief will help to relieve the pain from arthritis, sprains, bruising, pulled muscle, even tension headaches. You apply it on the skin, and within 90 seconds, the pain is eliminated or greatly reduced. So please go to my store and get the very high quality pain relief, super strong relief. All right, let's listen into BBC.
Hey, you little milk guzzler. Mom's boob is sore.
Good thing Amazon helped her. I can get her answers and help, even at 3 a.m. So all you have to do is sit there and look cute. Mommy loves you.
Hello, President Trump has said the US will not lift its blockade on Iranian ports until a deal has been reached with Tehran. It comes at the end of the 2-week ceasefire looms with no sign of an extension. Iran's chief negotiators also cast fresh doubt on a second round of peace talks, stating Tehran was prepared to show new cards on the battlefield. The US Vice President J.D. Vance, who's due to lead the American team in Pakistan, is said to be preparing to leave Washington soon. And a few hours ago, Donald Trump posted this on social media. Operation Midnight Hammer was a complete and total obliteration of the nuclear dust sites in Iran. Therefore, digging it out will be a long and difficult process. Our North America correspondent David Willis reports.
It's being reported here that the US Vice President J.D. Vance is due to leave the country later today, Tuesday, for those peace talks in the Pakistani capital, Islamabad. It was thought at one stage that he would be en route by now, and the fact that he isn't and spent the night in Washington, D.C. can perhaps be attributed to the fact that there is uncertainty over whether the Iranian delegation is going to be present at those talks. Iran has accused the United States of violations of the terms of the ceasefire agreement, in particular by blockading Iranian ports. And that is something that caused the chief negotiator on Iran's part to take to social media last night to say that President Trump was, in his words, seeking to turn the negotiating table into a table of surrender. Iran doesn't negotiate under the shadow of threats, that social media post concluded. Lifting that US blockade on Iranian ports could prompt the Iranian delegation to return to negotiations in Islamabad. But in a social media post of his own, Donald Trump said that the blockade would remain in place, as he put it, until a firm deal, a long-lasting deal, was reached with Iran. Mr. Trump, of course, is eager for a deal. He doesn't want to see another rise in oil prices, and he wants to see the Strait of Hormuz reopened. That has virtually ground to a standstill once again. The US also wants Tehran to hand over its enriched uranium supplies, and that is something that Tehran has said is non-negotiable. So it does seem that the maximum that Iran is willing to give is less than the minimum the US is demanding. All this and still uncertainty surrounding a next stage of peace talks, with the clock ticking down to the end of that ceasefire agreement.
David Willis, the BBC's chief international correspondent, Lise Doucette's been telling me about the Iranian position on entering negotiations. She's reporting from Tehran on condition none of her material is used on the BBC's Persian service. These restrictions apply to all international media organizations operating in Iran.
In public, Iranian officials say that so far, and they emphasize so far, they haven't made a decision as to whether to go to Islamabad. In private, officials tell us that they do want to continue the negotiating track, but only under the right conditions and at the right time, even before the incident in the Strait of Hormuz on Sunday, where for the first time in this crisis, the US Navy fired on, boarded and seized an Iranian vessel. Iran was saying that it didn't want to resume talks while the US naval blockade was still in force. It's also concerned about what was yesterday, another stream of social media posts and interviews by President Trump, where he veers from military threats against Iran and then declaring that a deal can be done in a day. Iran feels that President Trump is trying to exert even more pressure. And you saw that in posts both by the lead negotiator, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, and the president of Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian, saying that they wanted to negotiate in a calm environment, but that they wouldn't surrender to threats. I mean, but you have to bear in mind that President Trump pulled out of the last nuclear accord in his first term. The last two rounds of talks before this war with the United States were shattered by the onset of war. So Iran wants to be careful. There's a deep well of distrust, which of course goes back 47 years between these two countries. But Iran also has some tough decisions to make. It's under pressure from hardliners here. They don't want to make many compromises, and yet compromises will be needed if there is a deal to be done. So there are pressures from all sides.
Liz, President Trump says the naval blockade by the US of the Strait of Hormuz is costing around $500 million a day. He says that's destroying Iran. Do you get a sense of that economic pain there?
There was economic pain in Iran even before this war. When we came in February, it was staggering to see that inflation here was running at 60%. People are living under those sanctions that make everyday tasks like a bank account, like travel, doing ordinary daily things are impossible here because you're strangled in this web of international sanctions. And now when we go to the markets, the prices are even higher. There's one economist said inflation was now around 72%. We went to a pharmacy where you could see on the worried expressions of people there, the prices are higher. Some of the drugs they rely on, including insulin, are hard to find. And if they are hard to find, if you can find them, they're still expensive. And some imported brands aren't entering, again, because of the sanctions. Iranians want those sanctions to be lifted. The negotiators know that. But there are Iranians who say to us, those who don't support the government, who say we don't want a deal because we don't want to keep this order in place. And yet someone at a fruit and vegetable shop said to us, as we talked about the higher prices, he said, I don't want there to be a deal because I want to inflict even greater pain on the United States. So it's a little reminder of the churn of emotions and the different directions in which this country is pulling now.
And Liz, you touched on tensions, even splits in the Iranian leadership. Tell us a little more about what you know about what's going on that we can't see.
Well, you can see it even if you are here. I think it would be too strong a word to say splits. We have seen the disagreements, if you like, emerging in what is said on different media aligned to, for example, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the powerful forces, who, by all accounts, are the ones who are literally calling the shots in this war. But at the very top, the new leadership, which has formed after those multiple high-level assassinations during those weeks of war, they have some very clear ideas about where Iran sits, how Iran sees the future of its nuclear program, what the fate of the Strait of Hormuz, which Iran doesn't want to give up. It now sees it not just as leverage in these negotiations, but long-term leverage, also an economic lifeline to get out of the stranglehold of sanctions. So decisions here have always been made by consensus, and President Trump likes to say he's found the decision maker. That's not the system in Iran. They have their own sorting to do, and they have their own very tough decisions to make about how much they want to do a deal. And there is a view that if they see a bad deal on the table, they'll take a bad war instead.
That's Liz Doucette, who's in Tehran. Let's take you to the city where talks, if they happen, will be taking place, Islamabad, the capital of Pakistan. Preparations there still in place for possible talks. We've been hearing about security checkpoints and posters saying Islamabad talks lining the streets. Let's hear some more from our correspondent who's there in Islamabad, Caroline Davies. Caroline, how confident is Pakistan that these talks are actually going to happen?
I think that is obviously the really big question, is whether or not we will see these delegations arriving here in Pakistan for these talks. Behind the scenes, we haven't had a huge amount of communication from the Pakistan authorities here about one way or another. I think quite often they're trying to let the two sides, both Tehran and Washington, be the ones that lead this conversation at the moment. They've been doing obviously a lot of intermediary work. We know that back channel has been operated by Pakistan for several weeks, and we imagine that is still ongoing at the moment. But we've been getting a lot of mixed messages that we've heard from both Lise in Tehran, and of course, as we've also been hearing out of Washington about whether or not these talks are going ahead from the Iranian side, saying that they have no plans to attend these negotiations and these discussions. In particular, the parliamentary speaker, Galabaf, saying that they will not do so under threat. And he actually got something similar this morning from, let me just read you the post from the Iranian ambassador here to Pakistan, who says, "It's a truth universally acknowledged that a single country in possession of a large civilization will not negotiate under threat and force." So again, that same message that's coming out from Iran, saying that they will not come to the negotiation table as long as these measures they think are in place that are putting them under threats. From President Trump's side, he has been talking about the fact that he doesn't feel any pressure to try to find a deal, but that also he thinks that a deal will be done. The big question, of course, is will we see people come to the table here in Islamabad? Pakistan has been ready for several days. We've seen these sorts of measures in place. A large amount of the city is still essentially in lockdown here, just waiting for that further news. We also understand we've seen some US military aircraft coming in. While, of course, the key principles are not coming in for the delegations, we believe that will be the sort of security measures that be being put in place potentially before these talks happen. So lots of things going on behind the scenes here in Islamabad. But the big question is, are we going to have both sides coming back to the table and sitting around it again? That is still uncertain.
Caroline, briefly, if you will, why Pakistan? Why has Pakistan chosen to put itself firmly at the center of this diplomatic process?
Well, it's in an interesting position between the two countries, and it's walking that tightrope at the moment. For Iran's side, it's obviously a neighbor with Iran. It shares a 900-kilometer or so border. They refer to each other as brotherly nations. There's a historic relationship there. And from the American side, that seems to be a more personal dynamic, particularly at the moment. President Trump seems to have a good relationship with the head of Pakistan's military, Field Marshal Asim Munir, regularly referring to him as his favorite field marshal. And so it seems like Pakistan is able to, at the moment, keep that balance and be the party that is passing messages back and forth, if not also doing some form of intermediary work as well, making sure that trying to get both sides to the table and keep momentum going behind these talks. So far, both sides have been praising of Pakistan's role as well. They seem to have been able to retain that trust on both sides. But the big question is, Pakistan is not in a position to strong-arm either side to get to the negotiating table. It will be down to whether both sides think that they feel that there is something on the table that they can get out of this discussion, out of this negotiation. So still a lot of anticipation, a lot of questions, a lot of uncertainty about whether these talks are going to take place.
Thanks very much, Caroline Davies in Islamabad, where those talks will take place if they indeed happen.
All right, as we get closer to the lunch hour trading, the S&P 500 is at 7,091 and oil is trading at $89.82. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nano silver gels. You can get it in the tube form or in the quick dispenser form. Both you use the same way. They're dual purpose. If you have a cut, an abrasion, or a minor burn, apply it to the wound. It will help to heal it about a third quicker. You can apply it on your skin daily as a daily skincare. It'll help to neutralize. And if you're not feeling well because of the cold season, put it on your hands. It stays active for 5.5 hours. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the structural nano silver gels. Very high quality. You never know when you need them. Have some at work. Have some at home. Super important to be prepared. And Max 35 or Cleanse. Cleanse is 30 parts per million. Max 35 is 35 parts per million. But you use it the same way. Take a teaspoon a day every day. This is something I've been doing for more than 6 years. Take a teaspoon a day every day, swish it in your mouth, gargle about 20 seconds or so, and then swallow it. What it'll do is it'll help to neutralize your oral cavity and your oral pharynx. It'll help to maintain a mucosal barrier and help the health of your epithelial cells. Your innate immune system will be boosted up. And by doing this every day, you're slowing down the aging process because you're reducing the chances of catching something, especially during the winter season. So It's really important to do every day. All right. Now, if you're exposed to cleaning, your house because of the spring season or the garage or the basement, make sure you use this to neutralize so you don't catch something super important. And if you reduce the chances of you catching something, then you're actually slowing down the aging process. A lot of people don't realize that if you have just even a minor cold 3 times a year, it takes time to heal those tissues and cells. So if you have something benign for just 1 week or 5 days, it takes another 2 weeks to heal the tissues to go back to baseline. So that means if you catch something 2 or 3 times a year, you could be in this recovery phase or in the heat of the cold season, right? 9 weeks out of the year. So you have, let's say you catch it 3 times a year, all right, a cold. All right, that's 3 weeks, roughly. And another 2 weeks to heal per incident, right? So you're talking 9 weeks where your body could have been focused on something else. This is the reason why that people are chronically sick year after year, all right? That's why they age faster. So if you pay attention to me, you'll be able to slow down the aging process. Please use a teaspoon a day, every day. This is something that I've been doing for over 6 years as part of my protocol. Now, just to remind the audience, the protocol is very simple. The foundation, my multivitamin, and the probiotics. Take that every day. And to build on that foundation, you want to take the Max 35 Cleanse to boost up the innate immune system. C60 to soak up those free radicals. The turmeric, ashwagandha, and lignans to bring down inflammation, soak up free radicals, and help the cardiovascular health and your immune system. And Boomer Boost to rev up your metabolism and to have a steady burn of energy. You'll get lots of other benefits from Boomer Boost also. But this protocol that I've developed will help to slow down the aging process and you'll have more longevity. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Make sure you use discount 5 to save some money. If you spend $100 or more, you get a free gift until supplies last. It's that simple. If you follow my advice, you will get healthy. All right, let's play this clip. Ex-CENTCOM commander, Iran knows what we can do, by Fox News.
General David Petraeus is a retired U.S. Army general and former CIA director. So they say the strait's open. A day later, they light up 2 ships. Who's calling the shots in Iran?
Well, there's clearly some friction between those who are doing that. The foreign minister was the one who announced that it would be open. The Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps leaders announced that it would be closed. So you have captured it correctly that there is, again, some internal disagreement. I'm not sure it's quite as big as has been made out to be. But I think the base case is that Vice President Vance and the negotiators will fly tomorrow to Islamabad. They will meet there with the Iranian negotiator, who had quite a large team with him last time. He's the Speaker of their House, Ghalibaf. And we'll see if there is trade space. The key issues that have to be resolved, obviously, restoration of freedom of navigation through the Gulf as well as through the Strait, because Iran was interfering within the Gulf as well. Obviously, the issue of can they enrich uranium again? How long until they can, if that is bargained over? What about the residual, the 60% enriched uranium, that over 1,000 pounds of that, again, buried deeply in some mountain or underneath the rubble at Esfahan? And then also the issue of their frozen reserves, which they'd love to get access to. They do have some reserves at home, still reportedly about $35 billion, and they have somewhere around 180 million barrels of oil floating around out in the Asia Pacific that could be a source of revenue for them as well. So they're not at the point of desperation, but 80, 90% of their economy depends on what goes into and out of their ports. And that is not allowed right now because we rightly have put a blockade on their blockade, saying if you aren't going to open it, it's not going to be open for you. And that is going to be what's going to have to be resolved here. So a number of key issues. I think both sides, frankly, really do want an agreement. Obviously, there are challenges domestically for us if this continues. Obviously, there are huge challenges for them economically and financially if it continues. And I don't think that either side really wants to return to full-on combat, knowing what that could represent. And keeping in mind that, yes, our military men and women have done magnificently in achieving the objectives set out for them. But there has been damage to infrastructure in the Gulf states, and we certainly don't want to see more of that. When I was in Doha several weeks ago, they told me that 17% of their LNG capacity is offline for the next 3 to 5 years until they can repair it. So a lot of dynamics here, Jesse, that will come to play and determine whether there is a deal going forward, perhaps an interim deal that allows the extension of the ceasefire further and maybe even further.
You basically said both sides want a deal. General Keane suggested a decapitation strike of the people negotiating or some of the military leaders if they don't get one by Wednesday. Do you think that's necessary?
Well, that kind of threat is probably just going to push them further underground. Again, this is a culture that accepts martyrdom. Keep in mind that that is what we are dealing with here. Again, they're not looking for it and welcoming it. But assassinating a few more leaders is not going to bring this issue to a close, I don't think.
Do you think bridge and power plant, I'm thinking the New Jersey commute, bridge and power plant, is that something that they require a taste of before finally buckling? Because you look over the weekend, they're still clipping merchant ships.
I think we have given them a taste of that already, very, very substantially, Jesse. We have taken out every manufacturing facility for components of their missiles and the facility in which they put it all together. So again, they've seen lots and lots of damage that we can inflict. And we have gone after some of that, which does, in fact, it literally fuel or energize the Revolutionary Guards Corps and the other elements of the regime forces. So they know what we can do. And again, that does matter to them. They don't want that, but they're also trying to figure out how much can they give on these other issues that traditionally have been very, very difficult to negotiate.
Well, how do you give and keep uranium? The president seems dead set on either seizing it militarily or negotiating 100% of an extraction. Do you think it's worth putting American lives at risk to go in under fire and take it?
Well, I think there are other ways of doing this. Again, the International Atomic Energy Agency, if we get a good deal, we trust them. They have had intrusive verification in the past. You're absolutely right that they lied to us and to the inspectors, but we have had very good, as it's called, insights into what they're doing in their nuclear program over the years. Keep in mind that the Israelis stole the entire library, if you will, of all of their research right out of downtown Tehran. And we got that and presented that as evidence to the world showing that they had been lying. But if you get sufficiently intrusive inspection, if the IAEA can be on the ground and oversee the recovery, because again, we're not really sure where these canisters are of this 1,000 pounds of 60% enriched uranium, which rightly was noted is one turn of the enrichment process below that of weapons grade. But they're going to have to excavate very, very substantially. And by the way, that's what makes the idea of a forced ground operation very, very challenging. My shipmate who was talking about that there knows very, very well. He's a former special mission unit operator. We served together in Afghanistan as general officers, admiral. And again, this would be a very, very tall order. It would be exceedingly risky, and the casualties could potentially be quite substantial.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't come to that. China got caught red-handed, General. I mean, chemicals they used to produce ballistic missiles, they tried to run through the blockade with that. Do you think the president should tolerate that?
Well, no, and he didn't, of course. Our forces didn't. Their rules of engagement are very clear. We have made it very clear to the Iranians and to other countries that nothing is going to go into an Iranian port and nothing is going to be permitted to come out of an Iranian port through the Strait. So that was a good call, and it struck me as very, very highly professional, carefully rehearsed, and well executed.
All right. Well, listening to you, it sounds like you're a little bit more optimistic about things, and this thing is winding down to the proper conclusion. And I hope you're right. And we'll see what happens over the next 48 hours, General.
It will take some time. It's not going to be resolved this week.
I'm sure it will. Thank you again. Be sure.
That's the end of my broadcast. Thank you for listening. Just a reminder that the oil market right now is trading upward as we get into Wednesday. Who knows what's going to happen in Iran, but I suspect that oil will be up and equities will be down tomorrow. Thank you for listening. I greatly appreciate it. If you go to my store, get the great products that I offer, follow my advice, and get healthy. Have a nice day.